fatherland! I, the grandson of the great Emperor Chandragupta, Emperor Bindusar's and Lady Dharma's son Ashok Maurya. I'm not supporting Ashok. Not at all. Great Chief Kichak, if you come to know about my truth, then you will understand what's the truth in my words.
On the next episode of
Naona kama kiasi hiki hizo zitatosha, sio? Pesa si za kwangu. Kwani wewe unaonaje?
Lazima ujue senti zatoka wapi unazokula. Sikujilia tu na kujistarehesha na nini kama tuonavyo hapa TV, makochi na nini.
Si chake hicho chumba, ni muongo. Nitakusema na wewe nyamazeni, nitakusema si chako. Wacha babako baki kopesha kahawa na mahamri. Wareresha tu zako Malindi. Nyo.
this weekend on KBC Channel 1.
I know you are a sheriff because he has it better than you. Maybe it's high time you also need to look around for a suit, eh? Your terrace is becoming too loud.
Quit your unsolicited advice, but you should remember that Queen A has it all under control, or otherwise. Dude.
I think sane men should stay single for the rest of your life. Kinyanjui, what do you say? Through my brother.
Hyena and Ngoda now blends. Wonders shall never end.
Who are you calling hyena and God? You small person. Stay out of my life. Bara, you better start talking.
Hey, what do you mean? We were going to talk anyway.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
I'm sorry.
Hello and good morning, and thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Kenya this far. My name is Samuel Njoroge, and you are right in time for the only way to kickstart your morning, Good Morning Kenya. I'm having a copy of the Star with me, and XPS Thuge. I'll be telling you all about it, okay? He's cut a deal with the DPP that could see Henry Rotich, the former Cabinet Secretary Treasury, thrown literally under the bus. I'll be giving you the details of that, as well as Naomi Campbell. Magical Kenya it is. And also, Cash crisis is threatening Kenyatta's grand plans. I'll be letting you know all about that. Flipping over to page around 6, Raila denouncing regional parties as Ruto plots to split the strongholds. It's all about politics, and expect a lot of that come this year and next year. In the meantime, karibuni sana to the show. Asanteni sana kwa kuja. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Samuel Njoroge, and I do not do this alone. I've got the 3 ladies. Let's go full house, by the way.
Manze.
It's an awesome...
No. Don't say what you're gonna
group.
say.
It's an awesome team. It's an awesome group of ladies. And
group.
You were with
Don't
me right here.
say what you were gonna say, Sam.
And he almost did say.
Yes.
What I wanted to... Oh, God.
Take the
Doreen,
wheel.
Welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
I missed you. I don't know about the rest, but at least I know I did. And it's good to have
Samuel.
you back.
It's
really good
Samuel.
to have you back. Hey. Yeah.
Samuel.
In the meantime, let's deal with Lady Bamsworth. How are you?
Yes. Lady Bamsworth.
Lady Jane.
Yes.
Is she around?
Oh, she is.
Oh, she is in all her glory.
In all her glory,
But she's
of
wearing
course.
purple.
Grand entrance, grand intro,
Today-
dramatic
Poses. Sijui kwa nini bado hawaja change picture.
I'm telling you, today she's in purple and gold,
Yes.
right? It's all royal.
Dear Huyo.
Dear Uyo, Our Lady Regina,
Her Royal Highness.
Her Royal Highness,
In her royal colors.
H and H.
Hey.
Tell them.
How are you, Ray?
Good. I'm good. Yeah. I don't know. We don't know. What is happening up there? Anyway.
We have to emphasize that this is Good Morning Kenya.
Yes, indeed it is.
Lazima
In case you're wondering.
Yes. This is Good Morning Kenya indeed on Wednesday when we all crush on ourselves, I think. And my testimony is this morning, if you don't choose you, somebody else is going to choose you for their own selfish gains. So choose yourself first. Good morning, I'm Regina Manyara. Glad to have you on board this Wednesday morning. We're going to be looking at stories that are making headlines in the last 24 hours. And now Mudavadi has gone after Deputy President William Ruto. At the same time, Naomi Campbell has set, the social media
Ablaze.
By, getting that appointment as an international ambassador for Magical Kenya. We also know that, musician and actress has been in the country, and that is none other than Madonna, especially within Samburu. So, yeah, we have so much for you in as far as news, including, matters of politics. What is happening in our neighboring country, and that is Uganda. They shut off WhatsApp, Facebook is not working. So much is happening just a few hours to the presidential election in Uganda. In terms of what happens in Uganda is going to affect us as Kenya. If we just focus on one sector, and that is maybe if we focus on tourism, well, Uganda is regionally our traditional source market. So whatever happens there, it will definitely affect how we do business and our relations. Remember, we have border counties looking at Busia and such, so we'll be keenly focusing on that as Ugandans, our fellow brothers and sisters, take to the polls. And it is on matters on edge as Uganda heads to the poll. That is tomorrow, being Thursday. That and so much more will be coming up in not too long. Good morning once again. We are live. We welcome your feedback. That is www.kbc.co.ke. You can get further details on our stories that we are going to be carrying this morning.
Yes.
Wako hapo Jane na nani? Na Doreen.
Ndio sisi hawa.
Because in the meantime, I was Googling Naomi Campbell. Already there is a search, Naomi Campbell, Kenya. Already
Trending.
It's there on Google. And it's interesting to see the top 3 searches that actually pop up once you Google Naomi Campbell, Kenya.
On Twitter, that's been trending since yesterday.
I'm telling you.
Hata wapati Britha.
But the tackles on KOT, please. I read some and I was like, God, I wouldn't want to be subjected to such.
But she's been through it before.
But no, on the real,
she's been through it before.
Yeah,
I mean,
with
Even
the
on a-
Charles
on a
Taylor
more-
issue and such, I accept she's quite controversial, but don't we say that, you know, what
Controversy
bleeds,
sells,
yes?
yeah.
So if she's that controversial, then it might be as good, you know, it's good for us. And
Exactly. And you know, our visitor numbers, or visitors numbers, have gone down by around 72%.
True.
Since the pandemic hit.
Yep.
So
But
for
on the
us
real-
to get them back there,
Yeah.
we need to work with international partners.
So
by
her,
the
her
way.
appointment is just in due time.
Her appointment does not exactly mean that a Kenyan is not suitable for that position. Her appointment simply means that we may need more placement in terms of tourism and marketing the country than any other time. And I feel maybe instead of bashing her, we should be looking into collaborative efforts through which she can also mentor our models right here in the country so that they're able to pick up or take up those positions at a even right now, they can partner with the industry. I feel it's like a plus for her to be here, and we should milk the most out of it.
And
she
that's-
has chosen us.
Yes, that's
She
also
could
the
have chosen
concern
any
that I
other
have.
country. Huh?
That's also I have a similar concern because I feel, and this is a personal opinion, as a people, we are bashing the wrong person.
Good.
We are bashing her. Why? She did not appoint herself. I mean,
deal
she's
was
just
made to
doing her job.
Exactly.
Wewe ukipewa job sahi,
For example,
mtu aanze kukucriticize, is it your
It's not
fault
your
that you got the
fault.
job, you know?
Exactly.
And I think that's
in
a
this
balance we
conversation,
need to
it should be, the conversation should be revolving around why the ministry decided to go this way. You know? If they have reasons that are valid and they hold water, and given the state of tourism, not just in Kenya, by the way, I mean, this pandemic just threw everybody in a state of confusion and disarray. So we should be trying to understand why the ministry went this way as opposed to bashing her. Ni kama hata mkimbash, you know, will she lose the job?
She
Not
really
unless the
has it.
state pulls out from this agreement. I mean,
just
reminds me of a similar case that we had some time, I don't know how far long, I think sometime last year. You remember the appointment of Pauline Njoroge? You remember that?
yeah.
And the
Sips
star
coffee.
exhaust, you know? Such. So I think we also, as Kenyans, we're also very myopic. And, you know, we have a sense of entitlement as to, you know, especially on petty issues. And I'm saying petty with a tinge of salt because, as you rightfully put it, today if someone offered me a job, a multi-cop offered me a job somewhere, I'm not going to decline on account of my
KOT will
looks,
bash
my
me.
age. What I've done in my past is, can I deliver? And if this person actually, or this corporation picked me because they thought I could deliver, well, so why does it bother you?
Actually,
Exactly.
it makes me remember Lupita Nyong'o. You remember when she won the Oscars?
You know?
And she was very emotional. And then later there were follow-up interviews as to how the experience has been for her in Hollywood that far. And she said that acceptance was one of the things that she struggled with. There were so many people in Hollywood who could not understand why Lupita. Why this far? What's the fuss about this young lady? And she's a Kenyan, yes, making a mark in Hollywood. So, if you got an opportunity, for example, to work in a multinational or to represent a certain brand that is not exactly Kenyan, but they require Kenyan presence, you understand? They will definitely come for you. They will absolutely come for you. And would you want to be bashed once you pick up that role in that country? So let's not have these double standards. I feel, as you say, Jane, we are bashing the wrong person. We should at first understand the reason behind
the ministry's
picking Naomi
decision, yeah.
as the brand ambassador for Magical Kenya.
And
Then
what we
once we're
stand to
there,
gain.
Once we understand that, then we can get on Twitter and tweet
And now talk about it.
and now
I-
talk about it.
And I think anytime anyone gets appointed, whether it's a senior position or just starting, we should be looking at, is this person competent? Just like Ray has said, can they deliver? Then we can start talking about talking about this person or that position from that perspective. Can they or can they not? Because a lot of Kenyans are saying, Kwani, there are no girls in Kenya, there are no models in Kenya, and you're
There
wondering.
are. We have our
Millions.
very own Miss Kenya. But you see, partnerships are very crucial. Whether you like it or not, there are connections that Naomi has that our
We cannot
modeling,
get
our
elsewhere.
models don't have. ni ukweli ama si ukweli.
And also her being in that position as of now, it's also a plus for our Kenyan
Exactly.
models.
There's a point of leverage she may be able to hit that maybe our models right here in the country are not able to hit. Maybe
at the moment.
And at the moment, we're not saying forever.
Yeah.
At the moment. So
and
what we're
besides,
saying
I
is
think
business
her
demands.
controversy, her controversy works. You know, her controversial kind of relations
works for her.
Works for her. Works for us.
And this is a lady who's been tied with billionaires, by the way.
You know.
Let's not also forget that.
She already endorsed the golf status of our country. Akawambia kujeni mcheze golf hapa.
Sindio, like let's just begin there. And there's a cash crunch in the country, as I'll be telling you a little bit later in the course of the headlines. There's a cash crunch, and thus every cent counts, every move counts, and it is only important that we get to understand why the ministry decided to pick her to be the brand ambassador for Magical Kenya. Once we understand that, if the reasons are valid, fine. If they do not have a lot to back it up, then we have reason to form a hashtag. But for now, let's talk from a point of knowledge and a point of information.
As opposed to just talking
As
out
opposed
of
to just
ignorance.
tweeting off a hashtag. And that's
tweeting just
me.
because you have the app.
And you never know. Next year, a time like this, she could actually be starting initiatives to empower our very own models to get to that point. And that could be your opportunity.
As a
Sipping
model.
some beverage in the morning. Doreen, what can we expect from traffic?
Yeah. So today we are moving away from Nairobi. We are going to Kisumu City, and this is because late last year, actually in October, the president was around that area, and this was at a point when he was actually laying the first stone foundation of the construction of Jomo Kenyatta International Stadium in Kisumu. Now, the road in which we'll be looking at is called the Kisumu Chemilil Muhoroni Road, which has been in a very poor state for the last 2 decades. That is 20 years. The road was constructed in the late 60s. And away and aside from that, at least for the past 20 years, it has been in a poor state. And that road is what links to the Jomo Kenyatta International Stadium in Kisumu. So he commissioned the interior CS to ensure that that particular road is done at least before April, because the stadium will be done in April. So this morning, we look at the traffic flow on that specific route, and also how the construction process has been coming along and how it has been affecting that area. Because again, the same route also leads to counties such as Nandi, Kericho, and also different parts around Kisumu City. So that will be your focus this morning when it comes to matters traffic. And as usual, I love to appreciate you for making time every other day. So many thanks for making time. My name
is Doreen Arange.
Thank you, lovelies. Director, montage.
Tumengoja hiyo.
Definitely be looking at that road that I just mentioned, and also I'll be showing you the images of how that process has been coming along. But as of now, I want us to look at University Way roundabout, given the fact that I've just seen heavy kind of traffic, at least as of this particular time, and this is throughout the entire roundabout. You can imagine, just throughout the entire roundabout, heavy traffic as you head over to Nyerere Road as well as State House Road in that particular section. Also, as you leave the roundabout, going through the other side of Uhuru Highway before you get to Kenyatta Avenue, heavy kind of traffic. So for our viewers coming from the areas around, this is what, Waiyaki Way, coming all the way from Westlands, if at all you intend to use this particular roundabout, again heading over through Uhuru Highway or even the other side of State House Road, then clearly you'll have to make do with this traffic throughout this entire roundabout, because as of now it is just heavy traffic all through, moving at a really slow pace, and that's what we are seeing that red color there. There are no any kind of activities, so clearly it's just the heavy kind of traffic, just the usual heavy kind of traffic in the early morning hour. And this again comes all the way from Waiyaki Way, just as I mentioned, before you get the roundabout there, and also as you leave the roundabout, branching off to Uhuru Highway, heading over to Kenyatta Avenue. But at least on the other section, or better still on the other side, as you head over to Nyerere as well as State House Road, and those particular areas, green all through, meaning there's no traffic at all. But again, also oftentimes I like saying, and I keep telling you all the time, is that on this particular route, it's only a road that serves private vehicles only. So again, that could also be the reason in Australia, we don't see the heavy kind of traffic, unlike what you're spotting around the roundabout, as well as also just leaving the other side of Waiyaki Way. In fact, on that section, as you leave Waiyaki Way, all through is just maroon and red, indicating that there's heavy traffic, not moving at all in some sections, and in others moving at a really, really slow pace. On the other lane, however, this is actually, again, as you leave the roundabout, and this is as you head over to Waiyaki Way, to Westlands, and also past beyond there on that section. At least it's green and some bit of orange, meaning that it has begun to slightly build up, but at least a manageable kind of traffic. But also on this lane, we wouldn't expect to see heavy kind of traffic, because it is as you leave city center, as you leave Kenyatta Avenue, as you leave the roundabout, heading over to the estates. And again, on any road in this early morning hour, as you're heading over to the estates, oftentimes you again don't see, we don't expect to see the heavy kind of traffic because there are no kind of activities over there. But on this other side, you can clearly see just the difference in colors. Actually, on this particular side, it's, the colors have changed altogether, meaning right now it's just at a standstill, not moving at all. And that's why we're seeing that maroon color. We might try to look at some alternative routes, maybe for our viewers coming from those areas that I just mentioned. But even at that, we'll be really focusing keenly mostly on Kisumu, Chemelil, Muhoroni Road this morning. Try to see how that the process of that construction of that particular road has been coming along, and also how it is affecting traffic in that city as well as other towns that that road links to.
Karibu sana. This is Good Morning Kenya. My name is Jenwa Boy. We are glad you are with us, and you are right in time for the first segment here on Good Morning Kenya. This is In the Headlines, where we get to have a look at what the different dailies have for us this Wednesday morning. It is the 13th of January. We have 4 different newspapers with us in studio this morning. I have a copy of the Daily Nation, and that is how the front page is looking like this morning. Let's start with what the header has for us today. In regards to land, grabber beware, as landowners are set to get new title deeds. And according to the CS, she said that all these titles are going to be issued under repealed laws, and all the titles issued under repealed laws will be cancelled. This is just a state of migration from the old to the new. I'll be giving you the details of that in a bit. Supermodel Naomi Campbell to market magical Kenya as an ideal tourism and travel destination. That story is on the front page as well as page 2 of the Daily Nation. But looking at the main story that has been put here on the front page of the Daily Nation, this is in regards to Deputy President William Ruto. And as far as accusations go, leaders allege violation of Constitutional and Political Parties Act. And this now brings up this whole fresh threat to push Ruto out. And in brief, they have written here that the DP is under siege. And the new war of words against Deputy President William Ruto erupted yesterday with MPs who are allied to President Kenyatta, Raila Odinga and Musalia Mudavadi. Are now telling the DP to resign or to face impeachment over his utterances against President Kenyatta and his association with UDA. All that story has been captured on both page 4 and 5 here of the Daily Nation. And finally, when it comes to this back-to-school transition that we are in, it is said to be a tough run for learners who have special needs, as they are having a rather hard time when it comes to keeping up with these health guidelines that have been put forth by the Ministry of Health. Wearing masks, washing hands, and keeping a safe distance has presented a serious challenge for children who have special circumstances. That is how the front page, or rather what the front page of the Daily Nation has for us this morning. Ray.
Indeed, it seems as if scribes were reading from the same script this morning, because what you have on the Daily Nation is similar to what made its way on the front page of the Standard this morning on this issue. This is how it looks like. We have Deputy President there and Musalia Mudavadi with quite a brave header there. Now Mudavadi goes for Ruto. An impeachment threat. In an ANC Supremo Musalia Mudavadi launches a campaign to have the DP dethroned for undermining Uhuru's programs, including his legacy, the BBI, the Big Four agenda, and last evening, Ruto's men dared and said, bring it on. Indeed. So much is happening in our political scene. If I can quote party leader, ANC Deputy Party Leader Ayub Savula saying, and as quoted on this issue, it is unacceptable for the DP Ruto to sabotage from within the very government he is part of, undermining public confidence in government, creating public disaffection, and inciting rebellion while at the top echelon of government. On the other hand, MP Kimani Ichung'wah, as quoted here, says, we ask ANC to bring it on the impeachment motion. William Ruto's position in government was not a donation by two overexcited ANC MPs. He owes his position to the people and not the excitable leaders. How about I add that and say kaboom? Well, that is what is happening in our political scene. So much back and forth in as far as succession politics of 2022. Okay, yet to see so much, as we say here. A day in politics is quite a long time. Friends and foes change alternately per move, per second. It's like you're playing chess and there's someone pulling you. They make a move, they're going for the bishop, you give a pawn, such and such. So we'll be keeping tabs on what is happening on our political scene. And also we have a story about what is happening in Uganda. It has found itself on the front page of the Standard this morning with a title, Uganda on Edge as it heads to the polls. And this is going to be happening tomorrow. We have seen a video supposedly of the wife to Bobby Wine, that is Robert, yeah. But apparently it comes out that that is not the wife, and this happens to be a family feud in where that particular lady you saw in that particular video who had attended a wedding, or rather a ceremony where she was not invited. We'll be keeping tabs to debunk the truths and the fallacies. As you know, this is social media. We need to counter-check everything that we discuss about. That has been captured on the front page of the Standard, including why you will have to return the title deed. The Lands Ministry is going digital. Details will be coming up in not long.
With politics have also dominated the paper, with the main headache of picking 2022 running mate ANC's leader Musalia Mudavadi, image pictured there. Also Kalonzo Musyoka's just saying that with talk of other communities occupying State House, now aspirants are weighing their number 2 options, but none seems to quite deliver the silver bullet. Of course, I'll be giving you details of that in just a short while. And again, if you can remember the budding lawyer who was found dead in her home in Syokimau, Machakos County. Now it shows that the lawyer, who is Elizabeth Koki, was suffocated to death. Again, details of that coming in a short while. Coming back to matters schools, where private schools now face an uncertain future, and now institutions are at the end of their tether, with many shutting down and others stepped in debt they cannot pay. Their hope is now in government's 7 billion bailout that is not forthcoming. This story has just dominated the entire PD, if I can mention, because it has been well fleshed out from page 4 through 7 of the PD. And now what they're saying is that the government at least should ensure that they absorb most of this workforce, specifically teachers, at least into learning institutions, because a good number of them probably don't even have jobs. And also private schools right now are just glaring at an uncertain future. That is what actually is happening on the front page of the People's Daily this Wednesday.
Well, I'm on the front page of the Star, even as I continue Googling more information about Naomi Campbell and some of the initiatives she's been able to get involved in over time. She's around 50 years old. Again, emphasis is around 50 years old, because for models, a majority of them, you never really quite know their age. It comes in at times as a liability to their franchise. But yeah, some initiatives she's done across the world. And if not today, then tomorrow during our Trending Topics segment, we shall be looking into them. But I'm particularly drawn by her appearance on some of notable productions, especially those that have been produced by acclaimed producer Lee Daniels. I'm talking about Star, I'm talking about Empire, and also her appearance on Face Off. You remember that series, Face Off? Yeah. We'll be talking about that. If not today, then tomorrow. However, I know You're also asking questions about where is Eliud Kipchoge, where is Lupita Nyong'o, and I can see the likes of Donald Kipkorir quite having a lot to say about Lupita Nyong'o. I've also seen this other blogger, what's his name? Robert Alai, talking about Lupita loving South Africa more than she loves Kenya. But those are issues that we shall be delving into, if not today, then tomorrow during Trending Topics. However, right now, this is the front page of the Star. You remember Kimwarer and Aror?
Yes.
The scandal that saw Cabinet Secretary, ex-Cabinet Secretary Rotich thrown out of the Treasury docket. It forms the headline on the front page of the Star today. And apparently, his long-term serving CS, that is Kamau Thuge, has decided to strike a deal with the DPP in a surprise move, or what has been touted as a surprise move that could otherwise throw Rotich under the bus. That story is on page 6 of the Star this morning, and I believe in the course of the headlines, our newsroom was able to capture that for you, and we'll be giving you the details. Also on the front page, we've got Naomi Campbell there. I feel like I've mentioned her today more than I've ever mentioned her in my entire life, but silly life. Yeah, she's pictured there on the front page of the Star. Now she will be the Magical Kenya brand ambassador. That story there is on the front page of the Star today. Also highlighted, the ICT Ministry has established a toll-free number should you have instances of queries around birth certificates. That story is on page 8, as well as Matiang'i installed as a Bagusi spokesperson. 2022, here we come. Page 7 of the Star has that for you. Tribal cocoons, Raila denounces regional parties as Ruto plots to split the strongholds. That story is on page 6 of the Star this morning. I've just given you an outlook into how the front page of the Star looks like today. We'll be giving you more details in as far as what is highlighted here, as well as other stories in the course of the headlines. But for now, it's time for a break. We take a breather. However, we return with much more after these messages. Ama namna gani?
Namna that.
Muone Faisal ndio huyu aliwekelea bid ya TV na ndio hii anaenda nayo. Faisal, hebu tuambie ni vipi uliwekelea bid?
Nilienda kwenye website ya QuickBid. Nikatizama nikachagua kuwekelea kwenye TV. Sasa niliwekelea mara 3. Nikaja kwa mshindi, nikakutana bid yenye imenifanya kwa niko mshindi ilikuwa ni 168. Sasa leo nimekaitwa nichukue TV yangu.
Haya Faisal, mali yako.
Tukusaidie.
Asante.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Get ready for a 3 weeks Africa Football Feast as the new year kicks off with the 6th edition of the Africa Nations Championship in Cameroon. From the 16th of January to the 7th of February 2021, 16 teams from the continent will be spread across 3 cities as the best players from domestic leagues showcase their talents live on KBC Channel 1. Let's support our own.
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Unajua Saturday yaandikangu hivyo.
Ni nini wewe?
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake hizo miaka zote. Mtu ajui kujua kuandika note NOT tu peke yake. Kusoma kwani inasaidia.
Kijana, nini nakusumbua na mimi?
Nauliza ni ungwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama Angel,
Don't you
point
dare.
me.
Oh, please. Let the dead bury. They are dead, right?
Hizo viatu zake zinanuka. Songea huko. Haya. Kwani umeficha? Ni nini wewe? Yaani wataka kumpiga. Huwezi mpiga, umpige nini?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Do as you're told. Go get your sweater.
Come on, sweetheart.
Go.
Go on.
Don't tell me what to do. It's your fault I'm not keeping my word with my daughter. If you have a better attitude, everything would have been different. The administrator of the farm 30 years ago had a daughter whose name is Amaya. So if she's the same Amaya you know, that means she didn't lie.
I don't want to hear anything about that woman again. Is that clear?
It was Lucrecia who convinced him to leave things as they were. Of course, she never wanted me in her family.
She was surprised to find out that you had canceled her ticket.
I didn't cancel anything.
Who did it then?
Two lionesses struggle to cohabit.
Because I'm not going to stand here and be compared to some...
Hey, Nancy, don't try me.
As the coastal vacation brings Nancy and Joe closer,
Nancy, you are full of surprises. What would you like me to do for you this morning?
or will it be
Now, can you give us some space? No. He? Unaona hii? Ni usherati. Watch your mouth, Mother Teresa. Or what?
This game that you and Nancy are playing.
Na nyinyi mmekuwa akina nani kuingilia mambo ya wazazi wenu?
stringed, making a comeback? Hotter,
Just gonna stand there and stare at us?
How do you think things will end up here?
This is a conversation between your father and I. Sometimes it would be good if you just stand your ground.
Wait, Mtoto, wait. What happens between me and Mama Paul is none of your business.
You know Mama Paul is leaving you.
So what?
What? I'm done being a puppet and dancing to your tune and manipulation. We called the clients and told them that your precious stuff is done.
only on KBC Channel 1, Fridays at 8:30 p.m.
Good morning. Now, before we took a short break there, we were talking about what was happening in the corridors of justice. Indictee turns state witness. Now, we're talking about none other than former PS Thuge, who's to testify against Rotich. Our reporter, Serafina Robi, has a comprehensive report on what took place in the corridors of justice yesterday.
The ghost of Aurora and Kimorer Dam scandal is back to stroke former Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich as the state pushes for his prosecution over the scandal. On Tuesday, former Treasury Principal Secretary Kamau Thuge and the former Wildlife Principal Secretary Susan Koech became state witnesses in the case. Thuge and Koech had been accused of conspiring to commit an economic crime and engaging in a project without prior planning and failing to comply with rules and regulations relating to management of public finances. The scandal, which cost Henry Rotich's job at the National Treasury, saw Kenya lose an alleged 27 billion shillings in the dam scandal. Rotich is accused of flouting procurement procedures in awarding the contract for the construction of Aurora and Kimorer dams to Italian firm CMC di Ravina. Rotich has maintained his innocence over the alleged scandal, while the case shall be mentioned on the 10th of February. For Channel 1 News, I'm Sarafina Robbie.
Now, that is what was happening on the corridors of justice yesterday. We're going to be keeping tabs as, as that story unfolds. Remember, the deputy president has been adversely mentioned in this particular issue here. We're going to really be focusing on, if it's going to come to fruition, that indeed he had something to do with that particular issue. Now, before we took that short break, we also mentioned that, ANC wants to impeach the deputy president. This has been a talk that we've been having, around the political circles, but do they have what it takes? Now, a report here just looking at what is happening on our political scene, prepared by Kevin Washira, puts those matters into perspective. As we say here, a day in politics is quite a long time. Friends today will be foes tomorrow. Here's the report.
Justice Anthony Murimo on Tuesday declined to issue the orders sought by Mike Sonko, instead directing parties to highlight their submissions in the case on 4th of February. The ruling effectively deems Sonko's attempts to disrupt the vetting of Anne Kananu by the Nairobi County Assembly owing to existing. Sonko had sought to have the acting Governor Benson Mutura barred from making appointments or sacking any county staff. Mutura has reappointed Janet Ouko as the education executive and dismissed County Secretary Justice Kathenge. Meanwhile, Amani National Congress Party has called for a resignation of Deputy President William Ruto, saying his stay in government is no longer tenable. ANC Deputy Party Leader Ayub Savula alleges that the Deputy President has continuously defied and insubordinated the head of state.
We regret the attack on the President on his remark that he made at Honorable Musalia Mudavadi's burial of his mother. It's very regrettable for a Deputy President to issue such a statement.
Pia tunaomba makanisa yetu, sisi viongozi wa kisiasa tukiingia kanisani, afadhali hata mkataze kiongozi ambayo anajaribu kutumia lugha yoyote ile tagawanyisha wananchi.
Mtu mwenye anataka kuleta uhasama katika nchi ya Kenya, hatuko tayari. Huyo jina likuje bunge tuimpeach yeye.
Wewe unapinga boss wako, rafiki yako ambaye mlikuwa nayo kazi. Sisi vijana tunataka hizo promises ambao mlitupatia.
Please support the statements of the President of the Republic of Kenya. We believe that it is time for a rotational presidency.
This even as Kisoro Member of Parliament Chris Aseka defended the head of state over the need for meaningful inclusivity government.
Ndio walianza kugawa nchi. Wakati walianza kuongea mambo ya hustlers na dynasties. Wala ambao wako na pesa, wala ambao hawako na pesa. Na Mheshimiwa Rais hajasema kwamba kabila mbili ndio hazitapigiwa kura. Alisema what if. Wasikie vizuri vile alisema. Vile wanaongea juu ya dynasties na hustlers. Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta alisema naye pia what if aanze kusema kwamba kabila mbili peke yake ndio imeongoza Kenya, ni wakati wa kabila nyingine iongoze. Na yeye pia ni mwanadamu.
Meanwhile, attempts by impeached Nyandarua County Speaker Ndegwa Wahome to oversee business at the county assembly was botched after police barred him from accessing the county assembly. Wahome had gone to the county assembly chambers accompanied by 10 MCAs ready to preside over the business days after he was ousted by the Nyandarua County Assembly. For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
I think I'm honestly on the wrong
Let me tell you, the conversations here.
I'm on the wrong set.
We've just discovered a new name for Regina. Ameitwa Mama Miradi.
Miradi na wewe, coincided. Do you know Mama Miradi right
In my
now?
defense, mimi nimefanya hiyo kazi.
Oh, sasa unaanza kuruka. Tumerudi kwa TV.
Aya,
watu position for
turudi kwa gazeti, turudi kwa gazeti.
The future is bright and huge and we're just positioning for it.
And we recognize potential, so that is why.
He said tuko na potential.
Man.
Potential CEO.
Back to the papers. Hashtag is still Good Morning Kenya. I see those of you who are checking in. Kuna moja amesema anapenda uchambuzi wa magazeti. We got you. Let's go.
Yako bado iko sawa ama ina?
No, hivyo ndo ameandika.
Okay.
Uchambuzi. Uchambuzi Mama
Thank you so
Gazeti.
much.
Yeah, let's go to the back page of the Daily Nation. So governors are threatening to shut county services down yet again. All right. They are saying as it is, they're already battling with the ongoing nurses strike and having rejected this return to work deal because of the financial situation of the country. So, and these were the words of the Council of Governors chair, that is Oparanya. He said that they are yet to receive county monies from October through to November, December, and January as well, which is totaling to around 94.7 billion Kenya shillings. And he noted this in a letter that they had addressed to Treasury CS, Yetani, saying that should the funds not be released as soon as possible, they have no option but to shut down county activities. Quote unquote, he said that please note if the disbursement is not made forthwith, the county governments will have no other option than seek legal redress while closing down to minimize further damage and suffering of employees. And this letter was dated the 11th of January, just the other day. He further on went to say that Treasury has failed in its statutory role of disbursing the monthly allocation to counties, consequently making the counties have to operate at a near zero when it comes to their finances. And this lack of funds also means that counties are struggling to pay for basic things like drugs for the hospitals within the counties, paying for water, electricity, and to run some of the key development projects in their particular counties. And most of them are now resorting to their mifuko yao. Hivyo ndo barua ilisema. He further on to say that the delays are negatively affecting the lives of county government civil servants and, in a nutshell, service delivery for the county. So if the money is not released as soon as possible, the counties are going to shut down again.
Speaking of counties shutting down and the health crisis in the country, remember that the doctors, nurses and clinicians were the ones who were on strike, but now it looks like also the lab technicians have joined the troop, where now this health crisis worsening as lab technicians join striking medics. This is in Mombasa County, and the health crisis in that particular place has now escalated after the Kenya National Union of Medical Laboratories officers downed their tools yesterday, and they now join the clinical counterparts and nurses whose strike entered week 9. So speaking during a media briefing outside the Coast General Hospital, this is the Sec-Gen, that is Moses Maingi, he said they were now contemplating downing or withdrawing their tools, actually downing their tools, and all of this is just in a bid to compel the county government to solve their impending healthcare. So this just begs the question, what next for our healthcare system in the country now? Because again, also by them downing their tools, it only means that particular place, they'll stop COVID-19 testing.
All right, let's take a look at some stories here on page 6 and 7 of the Star. Okay, let me not revisit this Ruto ANC story, because I think our newsroom did it justice and we've mentioned it over and over again. But remember, Nani was being installed. Matiang'i was being installed as, or is it endorsed? Installed, endorsed, yeah? As a Bagusi spokesperson. And amid everyone wearing a suit, Matiang'i alienda na jacket. And let's not talk about the jacket. Let's just talk about Matiang'i installation as Elder signals bid for higher office. And there has been undertones saying that he could be going for the gubernatorial position in Kisii come 2022. Again, underline the word could be going for this position. And Abagusi Elders Council Chair says coronation of Interior CS is not political. So if it's not political, then what is it? Why install him as a spokesperson of the Abagusi community, and why now? Sawa. Those are some of the questions we need answered in the course of time. Not that we have a problem with it, just trying to understand what could be in the offing for this particular installation. That story is right there on page 7. Now, Ruto fails in bid to have his Matungu candidate backed by independent competitors. And that story here covered by The Star, talking about the 5 of the independent aspirants yesterday, say they were duped separately by the UDA leadership into attending a meeting in Nairobi where they were instead asked to quit the race and support the candidate the party had settled on. Page 7 of the Star has those details for you. Wahome Alice, the Kandara Member of Parliament, has been summoned for claiming that the state planned the kennel chaos, and the Cohesion Commission has summoned the legislator to answer or to appear before it to answer to these claims, which she alleged that the state planned the chaos in Kennel, where we lost those 2 young lives. That story is on page 7 of the Star this Wednesday.
All right, let's get back to the Daily Nation, and there's this particularly interesting story here, just looking at the ripple effect of COVID-19. I mean, it did touch on almost every part of, almost every Kenyan when it comes to the finances, but now it is emerging as from a report from the county government's budget implementation review report. And according to this report, COVID-19 did eat into MCA's perks. So normally the country will spend millions of shillings when it comes to ward representative allowances. And given during COVID-19, most of these sittings had to be put off to just ensure that, you know, we are containing the spread of COVID-19, it consequently led to our country saving a lot of money on sitting allowances. So compared to last year, and this they are looking at the periods between July to September, compared to the previous year, that is 2019, the country saved about 98.73 million Kenya shillings when it comes to seating allowances, because of course no seating, so consequently the figures dropped. So out of the 2.75 billion Kenya shillings that is approved, the approved budget for seating allowances for our members, they only used 376.68 million Kenya shillings. This translates to about 13% of the total approved figure. So we saved all the other monies. And looking at the same period in 2019, where, and this is between July and September only, that year they spent about 475.41 million Kenya shillings on seating allowances for these particular members during that period only, which translates to about 18.6% of the approved budget. So according to this report, they are saying that in as much as COVID-19 happened, it did save us some money when it comes to other things. Now the question that critics are raising, if it saved us money, where was that money redirected to? Page 6 of the Daily Nation. Ray.
Let me take you to another sector, matters of security. Quite a lot is happening. Is that 4 schools in Kapedo at the border of Baringo and Turkana counties have been shut down following an attack by suspected bandits, and now those are 4 schools closed, houses torched as bandits rain terror on Kapedo. Then information, or rather from a source who's not been named in this particular daily, on page 4 is that 6 KDF officers are feared dead in a plane crash, and this happened, these senior police officers and the Kenya Wildlife KWS personnel at the scene said the aircraft crashed at Irima Hill in Savo East, park near Voi Town in Taita Taveta County yesterday. Then we also have a student who stabbed a teacher in Kisii High School, and the police are holding the Form 3 student as investigations continue. He's being quizzed by the detectives from the Kisii Central DCIO office after one of the victims recorded a statement. Now, looking at what has been happening as far as crimes and accidents are concerned, our reporter Wambiru prepared a comprehensive report to just give us an overview on what is happening as far as security is concerned in the country. Here's a report.
One of the teachers, Edwin Mukaya, is reported to have questioned the student on why he was late for class and asked him to go to the staff room to explain himself. It is at the staff room that he was reportedly asked to kneel down, and that's when he brandished a knife and attacked the teacher on the forehead, back and legs. Elvis Maoto, another teacher, attempted to intervene but was stabbed before the student could be restrained. One of the teachers was treated and discharged while the other is in critical condition in hospital.
One had a cut mark at the back, on the head, and the lower lip. The other one had a cut along the cheeks, and one was critically injured. That's Edwin Mukaya. The other one has already been treated and has been allowed to go home. But for the case of Edwin Mukaya requires further treatment.
Kisii County Commissioner Abdirizak Jaldesa says the student is in custody and investigations are ongoing, calling for provision of psychosocial services. Meanwhile, police in Busia have arrested a Ugandan national with an AK-47 rifle with 30 rounds of ammunition in Adungosi Market, Teso South constituency. Busia County Commander John Nyoike says that the suspect was arrested as he attempted to flee after a motorcycle he was traveling in attempted to flee when it was flagged down by police.
Baada ya kufanyiwa search na police officers, iliweza kudhibitisha ya kwamba hii ndume ilikuwa imeficha bunduki aina AK-47, akawa amevalia jacket na alikuwa ameifunga na blada upande wa ndani, na hiyo bunduki ilikuwa na magazine, na magazine yenyewe ilikuwa na 30 rounds ya ammunition.
The suspects will be arraigned in court. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
All right, and before you add something in regard to the report, now the backstory with regard to what happened in KBC High School in case that the student had initially requested Ray. Yeah.
Transfer him to another school.
Okay, and really, I mean, it's just also a conversation we were having off air. And again, before I go to what I wanted to talk about in regards to matters of education, Ray, as you were saying?
I was just saying that the backstory of that particular issue that we were highlighting here on what was happening in KBC High School, there were two teachers ended up getting stabbed by a learner. It has emerged that the student had initially requested his parents to transfer him to another school, and it's not clear how the student got to school undetected with the knife. But the conversation here, it seems Jane and Sam of a different opinion that right now you can get anything within the learning institutions, especially the high schools, and I'm asking them,
no, as in looking back to how high school was, you could get anything into school.
Yeah.
And if you could not get it through the gates, you knew someone who could get it through to you, especially if you were close with the workers.
If you were a cartel enough, you knew how to get stuff into school.
I feel like in as much as
clearly, were you in mafia kind of run schools? Because
no, very good.
It's not about us.
Every time we reported to school, my school, everything was inspected. Then a week later, again, impromptu searches were done left, right, and center.
That was
so I'm wondering, what are you guys
and
talking about?
And the best thing is understanding that pattern.
Yeah,
that ukiingia kwa gate itaangaliwa. So you will not be stupid.
But in some way, they still found their way in.
So
people
you will,
who are talking, are you just confessing that
I'm saying you understand the patterns.
But the criminal minds on set.
Ukiingia kwa gate kutakuwa na inspection. So do not be stupid enough to carry any unwanted, unwarranted merchandise through the gate. You know, after a week, there will be those random checks. So do not
who are
be
you
stupid
against,
enough.
Sam? We really need to know who you are.
In as much as there were checks and there were random checks, to some point, these things, I mean, there's still just, you still just find your way.
No, guys, we need to
get them.
But also, my
find
question is like, we need to talk to your former schools.
We would talk and
all three y'all, we need to actually revisit your high schools. If this is how, you need to help them then tighten up the security, because I mean, clearly,
even
you never got caught.
phones.
The wall.
Sasa wacha phones.
Sasa hata phones ni nini?
Unajua hizi TV ndogo?
Some Joroge, you had a TV in high school.
I'm not saying I did.
The director is saying that we need to go for a break. But before we get to do that, I want to just look at this story, which was on the front page of the PD, and this is in regards to the harsh times, especially in private schools. And there's just uncertain future in the private institutions here in the country, and where thousands of private schools are now staring at a bleak future, owing to serious financial difficulties that visited upon them since the outbreak of COVID-19 in the country here in March. The Kenya Private Schools Association CEO, that is Peter Ndoro, yesterday was saying that the government now should ensure the workforce in private schools and this is again, especially the teachers, can be able to get places where they can just continue teaching, because a good number of them do not even have places. And now again, they're also depending on the government at least to release this money that they say that they were going to release. Also, at the same time, still 10,000, or not even 10,000, but thousands are yet to resume classes. And this is after schools reopened in January 4th. And this, especially places in Homa Bay, Samburu, Nyamira, thousands are yet to resume classes, and this comes at a time when the ministry said that every student, whether pregnant or not, or have a child, needs to resume classes. So again, this is a story that has been captured on the PD. Can get your copy and get to see which other schools in different parts of the country have not yet to resume classes as of now. And just as we had mentioned, it is now time for our break. I believe. Quickly, let me just jump in there before you bring us to that break. Yeah. That story has also been given prominence on page 11 of the Daily Nation, and you've mentioned Samburu, and that is what this particular piece has focused on, because they say over 30,000 boys in Samburu alone who got circumcised, 95% of them have not returned to school. And this is because this circumcision happens only once every 15 years. And it looks at boys between the ages of 8 and 20. So once that time comes, and it was in 2020, over 30,000 of them were circumcised, and that marked the end of their education, because they are now no longer boys and they are known as Morans. So as the previous Moran group retires, this group now comes into play as now the protectors of the community. And now the biggest concern is that over 95% of this group have not returned to school, given for the most part of the conversation, it has been girls who have been not going to school. That's the struggle that they have been having. But as of now, more girls have reported back to school than boys. So you can also get to read about that on page 11 of the Daily Nation. That break now, Doreen. Director.
Muone Faisal ndio huyu aliwekelea bid ya TV na ndio hii anaenda nayo. Faisal, hebu tuambie ni vipi uliwekelea bid?
Nilienda kwenye website ya QuickBid. Nikatizama nikachagua kuwekelea kwenye TV. Sasa niliwekelea mara 3. Nikaja kwa mshindi, nikakutana bid yenye imenifanya kwa niko mshindi ilikuwa ni 168. Sasa leo nimekaitwa nichukue TV yangu.
Haya Faisal, hiyo mali yako tukusaidie.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill, kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account, weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano, TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Say it aloud. Hail Kishak! Hail the motherland! I, the grandson of the great Emperor Chandragupta, Emperor Bindusar's and Lady Dharma's son Ashok Maurya, I'm not supporting Ashok. Not at all. Great Chief Kichak, if you come to know about my truth, then you will understand what's the truth in my words.
Get ready for a 3 weeks Africa Football Feast as the new year kicks off with the 6th edition of the Africa Nations Championship in Cameroon. From the 16th of January to the 7th of February 2021, 16 teams from the continent will be spread across 3 cities as the best players from domestic leagues showcase their talents live on KBC Channel 1. Let's support our own.
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Unajua Saturday yaandikangu hivyo.
Ni nini wewe?
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake hizo miaka zote. Mtu ajui kujua kuandika note. Note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli inasaidia.
Kijana, nini nakusumbua na mimi?
Nauliza ni ungwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama Angel.
Don't you dare.
point me.
Oh, please. Let the dead bury. They are dead, right?
You're running around. Hizo viatu zake zinanuka. Songea huko. Haya. Kwani umepita? Ni nini wewe? Yaani wataka kumpiga. Huwezi mpiga, umpige nini?
Welcome back to the program, and we're so glad that you've made time. My name is Samuel Njoroge, and this is the only way to kickstart your morning. Good morning, Kenya. I'm on page 14 of The Star. Yes, we're continuing a little bit within the headlines. There's a story on tea. And the auction prices now have picked up after low returns in 2020. And this year's first sale at the market saw the commodity fetch on average 212 Kenya shillings per kilo. And it appears like this is a margin up from the close of last year. And by the close of last year, the average, on average, a kilo was going for 204 or 205 Kenya shillings. But right now it's 212, a figure that could be rounded off to 213 because it's 212.62. And it's being attributed to industry players led by auction managers, that is IATA, anticipating better prices and returns for the tea farmers. And the average tea auction prices shed some 6% last year compared to previous year, as high production and depressed market occasioned by COVID-19 affected its demand. That story is on page 14 of The Star for you this Wednesday.
Before Jane, you take over, we also have a similar story that it touches heavily, not on tea this time, but focusing on, cooperative societies and especially within the coffee industry. Remember, the government has really been working at reviving the coffee industry, given that, food security is one of the things or other pillars under the Big Four agenda now. Yesterday, the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary, that is Peter Munya, threatened to deregister cooperative societies and dissolve management committees that are hindering farmers from borrowing from the 3 billion Cherry Advance Fund. This revolving fund was put in place by government to just help support farmers, just make as before, when the government receives, or rather when the marketers receive their cherries, before they get the monies and the returns that the farmers can now get to use these monies to survive before they get their earnings. But now, because of conflict of interest, especially in as far as management is concerned, has seen farmers, management has dissuaded farmers from taking advantage of this facility. And the CS is livid and is actually threatening to dissolve or shut down some cooperatives that are, indicted in matters of corruption, as well as hindering farmers from benefiting from this 3 billion Cherry Fund. Here's a report that I worked on yesterday.
Mid last year, the government set up a 3 billion shillings Cherry Advance Levy Fund as a revolving fund to give farmers cheap loans as they await their earnings from coffee marketers. However, due to mismanagement and conflict of interest among top officials, farmers are missing out.
Na inawezaje kuwa wewe ndio chairman kule juu, na wewe ndio chairman kwa society, na unawapa hata loan ya wahitaji? Kwa nini uende kwa banki uombe pesa unalipishwa 15%, 18% na pesa iko hapa ya gharama ya chini, na ni pesa ya serikali na imetengewa wewe?
Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya says some unscrupulous officials keen on maintaining the status quo and compelling farmers to secure expensive loans from either coffee millers or marketers, and end up frustrating government's initiative that is aimed at enabling farmers access low-interest loans.
Sasa forms tutaingia huko, bwana county commissioner na bwana DC, nataka kila society uhakikishe wamesign hiyo form. Wale hawatasign wakilima waombe pesa au dissolve the society. Mimi nitakuja ku dissolve society. Wanaona kama ni mchezo. Lakini hatutaendelea namna hii.
He further called for the investigation into operations of Rumukia Farmers Cooperative Society officials who borrowed money from Taifa Sacco by the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, sinking the farmers' outfit into debt.
Na wewe unakuwa chairman wa Taifa Sacco na wewe ndio chairman wa society. Hiyo inawezekana hiyo? Hiyo ni conflict of interest. Iwezi kuwa wewe ndio chairman wa ile inapeanwa na wewe ndio unapeana, unajipea. Na unalipia kwa niaba ya wakulima. DCI nataka investigation ifanywe hiyo haraka.
The investigations will also look into the role played by Taifa Sacco officials who authorized a release of a 60 million shillings loan that has in turn accrued interest of 100 million shillings. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Well, indeed, that's a tough speaker from the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary there, and a stern warning to officials who are mismanaging their members' savings, especially within the agriculture sector. The cooperatives, they risk deregistering if they are indicted in matters of corruption. This is owing to growing frustration among farmers there. So farmers there, if you're in a cooperative, you've been encouraged to take advantage of this revolving fund to just give you a shoulder to lean on as you're waiting your earnings either from coffee or tea. It is open. Now, social media yesterday was ablaze after some photos were made public of a man who had already dug his grave in Muranga and took time to even, rest and see how he would be laid to rest when he passes on. Well, there's an article that has been captured on page 20 of the Standard this morning, but now this one is a matriarch who did not want the burden to her children and wanted certain standards observed when she dies. This is none other than Alice Omondi, who will be buried next to her husband in a grave that was prepared, hold for it, in 1998. Do the math. This was several years back. Now, the woman who died in January will be buried in a grave that was dug and tiled 23 years ago in Siaya County. Now, Alice Omondi, who died at the age of 89, will be laid to rest in a family compound and next to his deceased husband, Bernard Habil Omondi, a doctor who died in 1998. So, after she lost her husband and buried him, she also prepared
her final resting place next to him. 23 years later, she passed on this January on the 3rd, and she will be laid to rest in that particular grave that she had prepared for herself, right beside her husband at the age of 89.
I like that.
You know?
You know, we are living in a time where when somebody, unfortunately, when you lose a member of your family, it's always, most cases that, no, not always, but many a times you always hear, oh, harambe, to give this person a decent send-off. And we are living in a time where we have institutions, organizations that actually offer funeral cover, death covers, but we are still a population that is not comfortable with talking about death and life after death for those who are left behind. So for a person to know that, you know, it is it's the ultimate end, at least for this physical realm that we are in. And preparing for it does not mean that you are calling it as would be believed. Unaita kifo kwa nini? Yeah.
Because I also remember growing up, these sounds that you used to make, and forgive me, producer, I have to mimic the sounds so that you can actually Kunaita nyoka. You remember? Oh yeah. That is what it was growing up in the 80s.
Ninaijua.
Aitoe.
Tuache kuita nyoka. Something like that. I can't do it anymore. But yeah, you make that sound, unaita nyoka. I'm like, okay, fine. Does it understand? No, it took me a while to understand that that isn't so, because clearly, snake doesn't understand that kind of language, you know?
And the funny bit is that we would believe that ukiita inakuja.
Hapo ndo akili ilikuwa imetufikisha. Tunaita nyoka. But now someone, Tina Osoro, who is a neighbor, says that they have described Alice as a serious farmer and a prayer warrior who grew cereals and would donate part of her harvest to the needy. We appreciate that the fact that one does what they please in this life, so we do not see anything peculiar with her decision. You know, that was a forward-thinking neighborhood. Looking at this graveside was constructed 23 years ago. Yeah. May she rest in peace.
Absolutely. And with that, we want to wrap this conversation like Toro. Okay. We have come to the end of In the Headlines, but not done with Good Morning Kenya. Do stay with us. We have so much more coming up in not too long. Keep talking to us. Let me just send out some love to our viewers who have already tuned in. Nona Charles Orek, appreciating the program. Paul anasema good morning, just tuned in from Nakuru. We also have Gideon Ocharo anasema Tasia is watching. William Mamburi Kamakei, good morning from Otamu, tuned in already. Thank you KBC for very informative and connecting everyone to the world and kickstarting every day in style. Keep it here, more coming up.
Right, let's look at traffic right now, try to see if things have changed or it is the same situation. I had also mentioned that we will be looking at this area. This is the Kisumu Chamilil Muhoroni Road. That is what we'll be looking at this morning, and this is simply because of the ongoing construction there. But just let me show you that image of the area. This is actually one of the junctions there, because there are quite a number of them. There's Mamboleo Junction, which is actually this image here. There's Miwani Junction around this area. Now, this particular area, it's the Kisumu again, Kisumu Chamilil Muhoroni Road. It's one of those roads that was constructed in the early 60s. For the past 2 decades, that means for the past 20 years, the road has been in a very, very poor state, poor conditions, and it is one of those instrumental roads. It leads to, you know, what is again also being constructed as of now. That is the Jomo Kenyatta International Stadium. where the president was at last year in October, and he laid a stone at least to ensure that construction comes into place, and it's expected to end in April of this year. That is the JKIA Stadium, expected to end in April this year. So ultimately that means that this particular road again also needs to be done, because again, like I mentioned, it's one of those instrumental roads. It also heads over, or it's a link to other counties in the areas of Nandi, Kericho as well, and also branches off to other towns in the other parts of Kisumu City. So clearly again, one of those very, very key roads. And part of what residents in this area have been complaining about is that any time it rains, especially for this particular junction, the Mamboleo junction, just look at how it is looking like. So during the times when it's very, when it rains, like how it is looking like, it becomes very impassable, and that has been the situation there. Also again, one of the things that they were complaining about is the fact that this has been talks over and over in terms of reconstructing this road, at least to make it easy for pedestrians there, for vehicles, both private as well as public. Now, initially, this particular road was supposed to take 30 months. That means it was supposed to take 2.5 years until the construction process comes to a complete. But at least after the president visited this area, part of what Ken had mentioned is that now it's going to take 1 year. And also they're inviting other 3 contractors at least to take each and every junction to ensure that that process is complete by the time that 1 year, lapses. So at least there's still some ongoing processes. And again, also in our other subsequent links, I'll be showing you how the process has been coming along and also how it is affecting traffic in this area. So right now, let's just look at the traffic flow, try to see how it is looking like. So this is the same area. Just before we get to that particular place, that is the Kisumu Chemilil Muhoroni Road. Before we get there, how about we look at the traffic flow around Kisumu Busia Road? Again, also one of those instrumental roads. And again, this particular route was also done and complete in terms of construction. And look at how the traffic is doing. At least as of now, it's green all through, meaning there's no traffic at all for our viewers coming from the areas around Kisumu, either heading to Busia or even the other side. Actually, on both lanes, just moving at a pretty fast pace. And again, also in addition to what will be part of that road in terms of the construction there, they also mentioned that they will ensure that there are traffic lights, traffic signals, pedestrian walkways as well. That is also one of those things that we have clearly noted on most of the roads, either the roads that have been earmarked for a construction or a reconstruction, to ensure that pedestrian walkways are put in place, as well as the cyclist lanes, at least just to make it easy for pedestrians as well as cyclists on most of this major roads. And also that's those are some of the things that also will be in place even as they they reconstruct the Kisumu Chemilil Muhoroni Road. Again, just coming back to this particular route right now, this is again the Kisumu Busia Road as you branch off to Kisii as well. Clear moving of the actually of the road, no traffic at all, pretty moving at a really fast pace. So let's come to that route in which we are focusing this morning. This is actually how it is looking like, at least as of now. Again, green all through. This is that just Muhoroni Road as you leave that area, Kisumu City, branching off to that place. Again, also as you leave the Kisumu City, branching off to Chemilil on the other side, green all through, no traffic at all. And the beauty of that is that this is actually on both lanes. So again, as you leave Kisumu heading to the other side, and also as you leave Muhoroni heading to the other side, as of now it is green all through, no traffic at all. Like I mentioned, this is again on both lanes. But I have told you that this particular route is supposed to take at least 1 year before this, until when the construction process is complete, a whole year. That is what Kenha have mentioned. And in addition to that, they also mentioned that they will ensure that the same road has pedestrian walkways for easy movement of pedestrians, as well as cyclist lanes, also for easy movement of for motorcycles there. Again, looks like traffic is beginning to slightly build up on the same route. This is still the Muhoroni Road. Look at that orange color there, which is a clear indicator that it has begun to slightly build up, but at the same time, it is also a manageable kind of traffic on that particular area. And again, also this is actually as you leave Kisumu, heading all the other side to Muhoroni Road there. Let's see if things have changed or it is the same situation. And this is around the Kisumu Busia Road. Again, also one of those busy roads. I had mentioned to you earlier that it is also a road in terms that also, in terms of reconstruction, also benefited from that. This is actually in the heart of Kisumu City, and look at now in terms of traffic, at least green all through, no traffic at all, meaning that the purpose in which that reconstruction was serving, I mean, the reason as why it was being reconstructed actually serving its purpose, because part of that reason is just reduced on the traffic flow, and this is how it is looking like, at least green all through as you leave the areas of Kisumu, again coming to Busia, and also on the other side as you leave Busia heading all through to Kisumu, also next to Awasi, again, green all through, no traffic at all. Just in some sections around Awasi area where there's a bit of traffic there, this is in that area around Awasi area, we're seeing that orange color there, which is actually an indicator that traffic has begun to slightly build up. But also around this area, the Awasi area is a spot where traffic police are normally stationed, in actually oftentimes, at least to try and control the traffic flow around this specific route. So again, also the traffic there, not really the heavy kind of traffic, but at least a manageable kind of traffic. But on major parts of this route, at least it's green all through, and the beauty is that it is actually on both lanes. So again, also for viewers coming from the areas around Kisumu, if at all you're heading over to Nairobi, doesn't really look that bad for you. Green again, as I mentioned, green all through. And that is how the traffic is looking like. At least as of now. We are still focusing on Kisumu, Chamilil, Muhoroni Road. I've shown you the images of how one junction of that area looks like. And like I mentioned, I'll also be showing you the images of how the different junctions looks like, and see how that is affecting traffic flow on that route. Remember that still that construction process is still ongoing, and it is expected to last a period of 1 year, given the fact that it is one of those instrumentals and very, very instrumental roads, and very, very important roads as it links to different parts, different counties, and key important of those is the Jomo Kenyatta International Stadium. So at least as of now, in terms of traffic, this is how the Kisumu, Chamilil, Muhoroni Road is looking like.
To tell you how the traffic looks like when it comes to the road to 2022, and matters arising. And as far as that is concerned, asanteni sana, pardon me kindly, but asanteni sana for coming in for the show. My name is Samuel Njoroge, and you're right in time for The Viewpoint, a show that we shall be focusing on some of the key political intrigues that have shaped political headlines for the last 7 days. What's your view in as far as the discussion that we're about to begin? Hashtag The Viewpoint at KBC Channel 1 at Sam W. Njoroge. Let us know your thoughts, and we shall definitely inculcate them into this program. Governance expert, that is Alex Manyasi, joins me by way of Zoom. Alex, good morning.
Morning, Sam. How are you? Happy New Year.
Fine, thank you. How are you? Happy New Year, by the way. Have we met this year?
Me and you have not spoken this year. Hope you're good.
So Happy New Year and welcome to the show. And maybe before we even get into the politics and everything, there's this whole thing of appointing Naomi Campbell as the brand ambassador for Magical Kenya. What's your take on it? Is she deserving of it?
I don't want to also be denied an opportunity in future. Like someone made a comment about some appointment, and the Facebook chat was retrieved and used against her. So I don't want to go that route. However, what I can say is that some of these appointments are supposed to help the country become better. In terms of tourism, what I can say is that the world is not traveling yet. The tourism sector is going to be down for a while. And so in terms of looking for value for money, my imagination is that that appointment is good or bad. It may not have been the right time to make the appointment because you want to make an appointment where you get value for money and not necessarily just for the sake of it.
Okay.
So the world is far from getting to travel again.
And we leave it at that, of course.
So if you look at it,
yeah, because you've said that let's not belabor the point, lest you be appointed tomorrow. And what you say on this show is used against you. But let's get into what is happening in the country. And over the weekend, we saw calls for a rotational presidency really gather momentum. And we've been trying to analyze our situation, comparing it with other countries like Switzerland, Comoros, as well as Nigeria and Tanzania, who have attempted to do that, but it failed. Let's get your viewpoint. And as far as this is concerned, Alex, are we ready for a rotational presidency?
Some I can tell you for free that a rotational presidency in Kenya is not possible. And this is why. If you count for 3 tribes, and if you just use the Jubilee administration as an example of ruling for 10 years, and Kibaki also ruled for 10 years, I don't want to go into Moi and Kenyatta, but just using those 2, and then that means you're talking about at least 10 years per president. So if you have 43 tribes, it means one tribe will have to wait 430 years. Is that something we want to even think about? That's one. Then number 2, the constitution that we have today does not recognize that. It's T+1. So the whole aspect of saying that we're looking for a rotational president, in my view, is neither here nor there. But having said that, I want to look at what the president said. I do not think that Uhuru Kenyatta said we need a rotational president. I think that was an interpretation by the Right Honorable Prime Minister in terms of his understanding of what Uhuru said. In my view, if you ask me, the president was just trying to play politics around saying we need a break from the 2 communities, but I don't think he was saying that we need a rotational president. You know, those are 2 different ways of looking at it. It's just rotational president is not possible. And if you look at the examples that the Prime Minister was giving, for example, Nigeria, you know, for example, Nigeria, the reason why they were rotating between the north and the south is basically to deal with the issues of Christians and Muslims. So for them, it's about tribe. It's about faith, which is obviously a more sticky and complicated issue. So because they are almost 50-50 in terms of their faith affiliations between Christians and Muslims, they thought it's easier to rotate between 2, and so to keep the country together. Think about what happened in Sudan. For example, if Sudan and Southern Sudan had gone that route of rotating between the north and the south, chances are that Sudan will still be one country today. So these examples that we're giving, we need to give examples that are practical, also give examples that will make sense in terms of the practicability of having to implement the same. In the Kenyan scenario, I do not think that's possible.
Right, in the Kenyan scenario, that may not be possible. Remember, this is The Viewpoint, and we will be inviting, and we're now inviting your voice and your opinion on this particular show. Kindly talk to us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya at KBC Channel 1 and at Sam W. Njoroge. Your voice will be part and parcel of the conversation that we're currently having. However, we need to take a breather, but we return with much more up, and including the upcoming elections in Uganda tomorrow.
Muone Faisal ndio huyu aliwekelea bid ya TV na ndio hii anaenda nayo. Faisal, hebu tuambie vipi uliwekelea bid?
Nilienda kwenye website ya QuickBid. Nikatizama nikachagua kuwekelea kwenye TV. Sasa niliwekelea mara 3. Nikaja kwa mshindi, nikakutana bid yenye imenifanya kwa niko mshindi ilikuwa ni 168. Sasa leo nikaitwa nichukue TV yangu.
Haya Faisal, mali yako.
Kusaidie.
Asante. Iko heavy.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Say it aloud. Hail Kishak. Hail the motherland. I, the grandson of the great Emperor Chandragupta, Emperor Bindusar's and Lady Dharma's son Ashok Maurya. I'm not supporting Ashok. Not at all. Great Chief Kichak, if you come to know about my truth, then you will understand what's the truth in my words.
Bayern Munich hopes to get past Holstein Kiel on Wednesday the 13th of January in their second round matchup of the DFB Cup as they seek to defend their title.
Alaba! Brilliant free kick from the Austrian!
It's another must-watch match you cannot afford to miss. On Wednesday the 13th of January from 10:45 p.m. live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. On the next episode of
Naona kama kiasi hiki hizo zitatosha, sio? Pesa si za kwangu. Kwani wewe unaonaje?
Lazima ujue senti zatoka wapi unazokula. Sikujilia tu na kujistarehesha na nini kama tuonavyo hapa TV, makochi na nini.
Si chake hicho chumba, ni muongo. Nitakusema na mimi nyamazeni, nitakusema si chako. Waacha babako baki kopesha kahawa na mahamri. Wareresha tu zako Malindi. Nyo.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
And the drama begins. What the hell did you put my stuff?
Ding dong. I need a lawyer. You stupid monkey. I want my clothes back. Oh, just shut up.
Tara, where have you been?
In the sky, of course, sitting on the moon. Or what do you think?
Too bad you've got me, so make the best of it.
Shapu kishafua na supu ya nyama.
Hiyo ni yete.
Kamene?
Cassandra.
Palanta guidance.
Omera Sata.
That was my time, Farah Hersi.
Welcome back to the show. And you know what? It's always good and inspiring when you know that your people, you know, your gang, your crew, your boys are watching you on television and they're encouraging you to keep going. Thank you so much, Solo, for this quote that you've sent in. You're saying that when you're small, they dismiss you. When you're growing, they criticize you. And when you're big, they fight you. Regardless, keep growing and keep thriving. Thank you so much for that. And let's continue with the show. Welcome to The Viewpoint. My name is Samuel Njoroge. We're just taking stock or looking into the political stories that have unraveled over the past 7 days and what exactly this means for the political space or spectrum moving forward. I'm still with governance expert Alex Manyasi. Thank you so much for your time and for keeping it Good Morning Kenya this far, Alex. Maybe we can revisit the whole issue of a rotational presidency. How then do we balance or do we get a solution towards communities that otherwise feel left out from the national cake, left out from having even a slight possibility at being president of this nation, Alex?
Yeah, so that will take, number one, that will take several routes. Route number one, of course, which is the longer route, will be that Kenyans will get to a point where they'll start focusing on issues and not necessarily on tribes and where you come from. I'm saying it's a longer route because Kenyans will take a while to actually get to a point where they can appreciate that. That's why today I like giving examples of Raphael Tuju, for example, when he was MP for Arieda. He did so well, and he was the best performing member of parliament at that time. But the people of Arieda voted him out just because he disagreed with Raila. So Kenyans are a bit far from getting to a point where they can look at personalities and issues and not focus on tribe. We have also seen the issue of the way national politics happens. Even right now, if you look at the discussions are between Kikuyus, Luos, Luyas, Kalenjins, Kambas. Basically, that's where the discussion is. So the rest are supposed to be others. And so if you're not in that matrix in terms of tribe, then chances of you having even a discussion on the table is almost nil. Even though there are some candidates who are saying that tribe does not matter, trust me, even Mike Sonko himself, before he became governor of Nairobi, at some point he had to retreat and call Kambas to a discussion at Nairobi Club. Why he did that is because his bid was actually sliding away from him. So he needed Kambas to vote for him 100%, if not more than 90%, for him to be assured that the votes he was getting from others. And yet Mike Sonko was a very popular candidate in Nairobi on the ground at that time. But you see, the issue of tribe and bringing in the Secretary General Sifuna of ODM at that time, it was then, I mean, the tribe aspects and others were making it possible that someone else was going to take the Luyas and the Luos were going to be taken elsewhere, and then that was a threat to his candidature. So the aspect of tribe is going to take a while. The aspect of regions is going to take a while. There's also the aspect of whether these people are pastoralists or not, even though they do not make much significance to the national politics. So that's one. It will take a while for Kenyans to actually start thinking issues. And have said maybe we will, the current generation will grow into the space. The younger generation will grow into the space. Those ones who do not remember the history that Kenya has, such that the only interest they have is in someone explaining to them how they're going to get jobs and how they're going to improve their lives. And then that then can leave a lot out the older generation that is still uncomfortable. For example, there are people to date who will have a problem with a Luo being president. You see, that is unacceptable, and yet that's the reality. So the things I'm saying today, even politicians will not say them, or people in power will not say them, but it's the truth. And then, of course, we have another route, which is even worse, which is looking at, and that's what the president was actually trying to say. I'm saying which is worse because sometimes it can also create animosity. And what the president was saying was, look, other tribes, you can see these two communities have been having the cake for the last, I don't know how many years, 50 plus. It's about time that also someone else is considered, or someone else takes the mantle. So that one, you don't have to change the law, you don't have to change the constitution. There's a time in Kenya, for example, there was the narrative of 40 against 1. So this can also be termed as a narrative of saying 40 against 2. So you see, that is also something that someone can approach from saying, we are fronting so and so, all of us are rallying behind that person. But unfortunately, this route requires, for example, what Raila Odinga did to Kibaki and say, so and so Tosha, and then other people rally behind that person. So it's a fairly complex situation we find in, but in terms of democracy and our constitution, if the big tribes will say that the small tribes will never rule Kenya, trust me, that will happen for another 1,000 years.
And there goes in the concern, because each and every scenario that you've pointed out, Alex, you've said that it's the truth. It points out to an unfortunate reality. How then do we strike a balance? How do we confront these truths that we're getting and facing to ensure that they do not threaten to tear the country apart?
So it's more about leadership. It's more about leadership than the voter. And I'm saying it's more about leadership than the voter because, for example, when Raila said Kibaki Tosha, the people abandoned Uhuru Kenyatta completely and voted for Kibaki 100%. Other tribes actually voted for him more than the Kikuyu community. So that is a confirmation that other tribes can actually rally behind a person even when their own tribe is either insignificant or is unwilling. So I'm saying leadership because if the leadership can find someone who makes sense, someone who is from a small tribe, someone who has no money, but someone who has the capacity to lead this country, then their selfish ambitions can be shelved for purposes of supporting that person. And this has been demonstrated before. Kibaki was never the best candidate at that time. And yet Kibaki, in terms of being, I'm saying the best candidate in terms of appeal and national appeal at that time. But if you look at the way Kibaki performed, the people who fronted him knew that he was a good guy who could lead this country. Maybe even in terms of financial muscle, he was not the most endowed. So it's possible that leaders can actually shelve their own ambitions and support a person. And that's why some of us usually have serious problems for people like Western Kenya, where you are producing more than one candidate and as if there's no candidate that's better than the other. Of course, it's possible to know that if you fronted so and so from this region and you put together your thoughts with another region or another candidate, then it's possible to produce a better combination. So a good idea plus a good idea should make a better idea. But usually the way the Kenyan elite think is that they rather have many good ideas who are not joined together, then you never have a better idea. So this is where the challenge is. It's about the, if you look at the cost, for example, they have now retreated and they are forming their own party. Why? It's because they just want to negotiate. If you look at Ukambani, it's almost everybody for themselves. It's not possible that Charity Ngilu wants to run, Kivutha Kibwana wants to run, Machakos governor wants to run, then Kalonzo Musyoka is running. Surely, is it that everybody is good? It's not possible that everybody is equal to the other in terms of the capacity to lead the country. So the selfishness that we have witnessed in Kenya is just out of the leaders that we have. It's not out of Mwananchi. Mwananchi is always willing. The unfortunate bit that Mwananchi is swayed based on many other factors that are outside of governance. The unfortunate bit. And this is because if you think through the reasons why a voter wakes up at 5 a.m. to go vote, some of them will wake up at 5 a.m. because they were given something. And relatively, if you follow that person, probably if they are not given that something, then they will have slept hungry that day. What they do not remember is that for the next 5 years, you have compromised your capacity to ask hard questions to that mheshimiwa of yours. Now, for others, it's just about their waking up in the morning because they need to protect their vote and their man. So you see, those are not reasons that the voter should be having. But unfortunately, that is the reason that the voter has, because that is how they have been they have been accustomed to think that leadership is. So that's why my argument should be that this reform and this ideological change should happen at the leadership level. And then in future, when we get to a point where the generations that are coming and the young generations are able to say, this is what is good for us and this is what is bad for us, and ask politicians the difficult questions, at least the leadership will have helped us to move from point 1 to point B.
Is that what the BBI is trying to cure? Is that what the BBI is trying to achieve?
So BBI is trying to achieve part of that. But you see, the way you look at it, accommodating many people is not necessarily equal to making representation possible. Because you see, if you're going to create 5 positions, it's possible to end up with the same 5 big tribes. Because it's about interests and it's about who is bringing what on the table. And that's why, like I was telling you, for example, in the coast, people are retreating to form their own party. Why are they retreating from their own party? is because when they negotiate now, if among the 5 positions or 6 positions available, then they can negotiate for one of them. So what happens to the Turkana? What happens to the others that are small? And if you think through the process of getting someone at the negotiating table, it's always about the numbers. It's always about what you're bringing. That's why people like our court, they can make as much noise as ever.
Alex, we appear to have a hitch with your connection. Hopefully that will be resolved soon enough, but we're looking into the possibility of balancing the equation when it comes to clinching the top seat. There's been a conversation in the country that some communities have been accorded more opportunity than others. Others argue that courtesy of those opportunities, those communities have benefited otherwise unfairly as compared to counterparts within the same country. And that begs the question, how do we strike a balance and maintain the right cosmic balance, if I may call it so, when it comes to the running of the country? Remember, your voice and your opinion is much welcome on this show. Hashtag Good Morning Kenya at KBC Channel 1 and at Sam W. Njoroge. Let us know what you think about this. Let us know what your viewpoint is in as far as making sure that we balance the scale when it comes to politics, governance, and the running of government in the country. Alex, we're clear enough? You can hear me now? All right, perfect. So you were just making a point about whether or not the BBI will be in a position to cure these imbalances that have otherwise existed over time.
Yes, and I was saying that if you think through the positions being created at the higher levels, yes, of course, the antagonism is usually between the big tribes. And I'm saying antagonism because if you're Aukot, and I was giving the example of Dr. Aukot, for example, where will he get Turkanas to come and demonstrate in Nairobi? So he will never get them. And that's why it doesn't matter how good he is, he will always make noise and he will even be ignored and nobody will feel anything about it. So when you create more positions at that level, at the national level, at the higher level, then you make it possible to accommodate people who are likely to be antagonists, and by extension, tribes that are likely to be antagonists. And therefore, you have a better, so to speak, a more cohesive country. But you see, I was making the argument that that does not cure the fact that representation means that everybody has an equal chance. And in this case, the courts of this world will have an opportunity, for example, sorry, I'm using his example, have an opportunity, for example, to be not only to be heard, but also to have an opportunity to lead. So if you are in that space, then you realize that you're solving one problem, but you're not solving the whole problem. And the whole problem is that even the minority will have an opportunity and a chance to be electable. And that's why I was saying that if you think through the way our politicians and the elite think, then when they do their maths, if you're not among the big tribes, and then on the discussion table, they will not even discuss you. And even if you tried, it doesn't matter how good you are, it doesn't matter how progressive you are. If you don't have something to present on the table, which is how many votes, I mean, how much numbers you have in terms of tribes, then that just doesn't make sense.
All right, two more.
There's another narrative which is coming in with it.
Sorry?
Yes, I was saying that there's another narrative that is coming along, which is looking at the aspect of hustlers versus the haves, or hustlers versus the dynasties. You see, that discussion is the same discussion that is trying to galvanize a certain category of people against a certain category of people. And that's why if you look at the president's statement of saying, these two communities have been leading, why not another one? That's basically to counter the narrative of saying that someone is getting traction, some other people are getting traction in terms of looking at the numbers at the poor people. And so how do you counter that? You create the tribe card. And then that's why I was saying easily become at least two kind of arguments.
You make a point that makes me wonder. Anyway, we may not be having enough time to exhaust that because we've got two more pending matters. We've got the Musalia Mudavadi factor and we've got the upcoming elections in Uganda. Let's begin with the prior, and that is Musalia Mudavadi. Is he slowly being groomed as the compromise candidate that could hinder the deputy president's ambition of being the top man in 2022?
You know, Musalia Mudavadi people have made attempts before. People argue that he's a likable guy, he's less harmful, he's predictable, and so he's someone you can bank on. The technocrats and the systems have always thought, and that happened last time, although actually Uhuru Kenyatta would not have been president today if that plot would have happened, because Musalia Mudavadi was preferred to Uhuru Kenyatta. And you see, if you think about the link between Musalia Mudavadi and the Moi family and the Kalenjin, you're more likely to sell Musalia Mudavadi nationally than another person. So competence is aside, because I am not sure, I can't make any judgment here because I've never interacted with him as a person. But competence aside, it's easier to sell Musalia Mudavadi than to sell another person, because it's easy to form the narrative of the 40 against 2 that I was telling you about. And if you're fronting Musalia, then even the 2 that we're talking about, you're also likely to have a few people who will be comfortable with that kind of candidate. So it's an easy sell in terms of, but you see, that sell then will have to come with a plan which is solid, which includes people like Raila Odinga, for example, shelving their ambitions and making their support towards Musalia. That is the easiest way it can run. Otherwise, if you don't do that, then the hustler narrative is, you need to find a different way of dealing with that. Otherwise, it's difficult to deal with it. But again, if you think about the way politics is running, the people who are thinking about scenarios and options need to think quickly. Otherwise, if by the end of this year their thinking will not have materialized, then whichever way you look at it, we will just be dealing with William Ruto, Raila Odinga, and the people that we know.
You say they need to think through very quickly, and also you say that it's not the first time Musalia is being fronted, either directly or indirectly. In 2013, he came way too close, but yet too far. How do we make sure that this time around nothing is different? Or better yet, what is different this time around that he could be having as a bargaining chip that will work to his advantage?
You see, Sam, like I told you, it's one of those things that is about shelving ambitions, and especially of the political elite. That is where the problem is. In fact, Musalia candidature might not sell if you're to approach it from a Mwananchi perspective. And so why I said, assume that Musalia Mudavadi is not a lawyer, assume that Musalia Mudavadi is a Turkana, and look at the other tribes headed by the elite, and this then are the ones who are making the decision to say, look, building options to actually front Musalia Mudavadi, the way they did Kibaki Tosha. And the person here who will play probably the most pivotal role will be Raila Odinga. So that's what I'm saying, the thinking has to be fast, because if that was to succeed, then the narrative of the hustler agenda will only be dealt with at that point. And if that doesn't happen, if it doesn't happen within this year, then of course it will become too late in the day. Remember, it also needs not to look like a government project, because once that happens, then you end into the same hole, which will be that people will be saying, we do not like you as a government. So anything that you bring to us, we will not like. So you see, that then has to be a point where people need to think quickly, and these people need to think in such a way that they present this option way early enough so that people can make those decisions. But the political elite will play the role that is bigger than what the managerial role will be.
And is this narrative that is being fronted by the likes of Ayub Savula really helping the cause for Musalia Mudavadi? They're saying that Deputy President should stand down, better yet, resign or being impeached. Is that kind of narrative going to help the cause to have Musalia Mudavadi as president or possible president in 2022?
That does not help. It only helps to make it worse. You know, the whole aspect of saying he should stand down or he should be impeached or whatever it is, then on what basis will you be making those propositions? Because you see, if you're saying we need to front Musalia Mudavadi, then you're saying we are providing alternative leadership. You're not saying that we are providing Musalia Mudavadi at the end of William Ruto, or William Ruto has to exit the scene for Mudavadi to succeed. You see, if we go that route, then you will never front Musalia Mudavadi and succeed. And at this point in time, I think the midnight oil, like I said, should be around the political elite thinking through which options are they looking at. Are they looking at the William Ruto option, or are they looking at the Musalia Mudavadi option? Because if that's not the case, then the other options we are thinking about are Raila Odinga or Kitui and other options. So the imagination that you will bring Musalia by bringing down William Ruto, that just doesn't work.
It's not one versus the other. Very quickly, before we take a break at the top of the hour, let me appreciate the following people who are watching the show this morning. Gideon Ocharo, you're saying, watching the show from Tasia. Asante sana for that. We've got our very own regular who watches the show every morning. This is William Wamburi, who's saying good morning from Watamu, tuned in already. Thank you, KBC. Very informative and connecting everyone to the world, kickstarting every day in style. Asante sana and have a lovely day. We've got another one here, Boniface Boke, who's saying, I'm enjoying Good Morning Kenya from Sir R. Boda. I took it as you wrote it. Thank you so much for that. Let me take another one here. Oh, God. Okay. All right. Newsome, thank you. You're saying, according to Raila Odinga, it's our turn to eat has found a new meaning. I have deliberately skipped your tweet, Ben, but thank you otherwise, and all the more for watching the show this morning. So you can keep talking to us. We encourage your participation and involvement in this particular live show. It's Good Morning Kenya, the only way to kickstart your morning. And the hashtag is Good Morning Kenya at KBC Channel 1. Make sure that your voice counts and it's heard on this platform. At around some seconds to the top of the hour, let's take a break. We will be back with Alex Manyasi to look into some of the emerging issues that we could expect from the upcoming elections in Uganda tomorrow. That coming up after these messages. Keep it. Good Morning Kenya.
Muone Faisal ndio huyu aliwekelea bid ya TV na ndio hii anaenda nayo. Faisal, hebu tuambie ni vipi uliwekelea bid?
nilienda kwenye website ya Quickbid. Nikatizama nikachagua kuwekelea kwenye TV. Sasa niliwekelea mara 3. Nikaja kwa mshindi, nikakutana bid yenye imenifanya kwa niko mshindi ilikuwa ni 168. Sasa leo nimekaitwa nichukue TV yangu.
Haya Faisal, haya mali yako.
Tukusaidie.
Jiunga na Quickbid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. Quickbid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Say it aloud. Hail Kishak. Hail the motherland. I, the grandson of the great Emperor Chandragupta, Emperor Bindusar's and Lady Dharma's son Ashok Maurya. I'm not supporting Ashok. Not at all. Great Chief Kichak, if you come to know about my truth, then you will understand what's the truth in my words.
Two lionesses struggle to cohabit.
Because I'm not going to stand here and be compared to some...
Hey, Nancy, don't try me.
As the coastal vacation brings Nancy and Joe closer.
Nancy, you are full of surprises. What would you like me to do for you this morning?
Or will it be?
Now, can you give us some space?
No. He? Unaona hii? Ni usherati.
Watch your mouth, Mother Teresa.
Or what?
This game that you and Nancy are playing.
Na nyinyi mmekuwa akina nani kuingilia mambo ya wazazi wenu?
Stringed, making a comeback. Hotter.
Just gonna stand there and stare at us?
How do you think things will end up here?
This is a conversation between your father and I.
Sometimes it would be good if you would just stand your ground.
Wewe mtoto, wewe. What happens between me and Mama Paul is none of your business.
You know Mama Paul is leaving you.
So what?
What?
I'm done being a puppet and dancing to your tune and manipulation. We called the clients and told them that your coaching start is done.
Only on KBC Channel 1. Fridays at 8:30 p.m.
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Unajua Saturday haiandikangi hivyo.
Ni nini wewe?
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake hizo miaka zote. Mtu ajui kujua kuandika note. Note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli inasaidia.
Kijana, nini nakusumbua na mimi?
Nauliza ni ungwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama Angel,
Don't you
point
dare.
me.
Okay. Let the dead bury. They are dead, right?
You're running around. Hizo viatu zake zinanuka. Songea huko. Haya. Kwani nimeita? Ni nini wewe? Yaani wataka kumpiga. Huwezi mpiga, umpige nini?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Do as you're told. Go get your sweater.
Come on, sweetheart.
Go.
Go on.
Don't tell me what to do. It's your fault I'm not keeping my word with my daughter. If you have a better attitude, everything would have been different. The administrator of the farm 30 years ago had a daughter whose name is Amaya. So if she's the same Amaya you know, that means she didn't lie.
You don't want to hear anything about that woman again, is that clear?
It was Lucrecia who convinced him to leave things as they were. Of course, she never wanted me in her family.
She was surprised to find out that you had canceled her ticket.
I didn't cancel anything.
Who did it then?
Welcome back to the program. Asanteni sana kwa kuja. My name is Samuel Njoroge, and this is the only way to kickstart your morning. Good morning, Kenya. We are on the last stretch, or the final stretch of the Viewpoint this Wednesday. I'm still with Alex Manyasi, a governance expert. Alex, thank you so much for your time this far. Quickly, let's lay focus on the election that is coming up tomorrow in Uganda. What are your expectations?
Sorry, I was on mute. What's going on in Uganda is rather sad, to say the least. And there are several reasons why I say that. I say that because democracy is about having people to decide the leadership they want. That's one. Number two, the intimidation and the clobbering of people and arresting of people and the disappearance of people is something that should not be happening in this century. And I'm actually surprised that the international community has not weighed in more heavily than it has right now. And so the people of Uganda need to be given an opportunity tomorrow to vote for the leader they want. However, if you think through what Bobi Wine, I'm singling out Bobi Wine because probably that is the biggest challenger to Museveni. He has quite some bit of work in terms of whether he wins the elections in Uganda. Even if he won the election, chances are that he may not be given the position of president in Uganda. That's number one. But also the euphoria that we are seeing and the hype that we are seeing around Bobi Wine might also not be 100% what we imagine it is, because there are people, and I want to give the example of Uganda and Rwanda. There are people in Uganda, especially the older generation, who have seen war. And Museveni literally took them out of war. And these people do not believe and they do not understand how, for example, you can bring someone like Bobi Wine and install that kind of person as president. So the riots we are seeing in the streets might be around young people. And so if you disrupt the possibility of these young people voting, like right now, the restrictions around Kampala and other major cities, major towns, then you might also disrupt the capacity of the voters that will have voted for Bobi Wine to actually vote for him. And so you might end up with him losing the election. I'm saying Uganda because if you look at Rwanda, for example, is another example of a quiet country, which when the people think about the killings that happened in Rwanda, then they do not want to imagine that they can bring someone else who can also then come and make it possible for a repeat of the same. So that insecurity within Rwandans and Ugandans is still holding back people making decisions to progress from one person to another. And so they want to attribute their relative calm to the person and not necessarily to think about what the economic and prosperity should look like. So if you think through the arrests, I was watching a video just before we started this show of a lady being arrested, and it's just very sad. The security agencies, the things they're doing are unacceptable. You cannot drag a lady who is technically stripped in front of her children it's just unacceptable. These things should not be happening in a civilized society. If they want to stop Bobby Wine from being president, and then they should use other means, but not killing people and arresting people and making a mockery out of the whole situation of democracy. It's pointless to say it's a democracy and you're going to an election, but at the same time, the things that you're doing contradict what a democracy means.
Things you're doing contradict what a democracy means. You've asked a valid question. Why isn't the international community as vocal as it has been before? But really, in the wake of the pandemic and owing to the fact that they've done it before and not so many changes have happened, what's the use? What's the purpose, Alex?
Yeah, so, some of these countries, there are measures, some of them could be extreme, and some of those measures include sanctions. So if you have the army, because in Uganda, by the way, it's not even about the police, it's the army. When you have the army getting involved in domestic matters, when you have the army doing the arrests and having people disappear, then surely someone should be held accountable even at international courts if that threshold is met. Because you see, all these things are being captured on camera. Now there are smartphones everywhere. Even the BBC has reported some of those things that are going on in Uganda. So it's not the first time that we have seen these things happen. And the more our leaders are allowed, because you see, Ugandans and other politicians and technocrats and Kenya, for example, it's not possible to rein in on Uganda. So the only capacity that can rein in on Uganda would be either at the AU level or higher. So that is where this discussion should be happening. The unfortunate bit is that these same people at the AU, for example, will still think about Museveni as their colleague. They will not think about Ugandans and what needs to happen in Africa. So the more we think about how we look at Africa and the way we need to be governing Africa, the more we'll get to get respect even for bodies like the AU. So the sooner they start acting and making it easy, making it very clear that there are certain things that you can't do, the more leaders will still be in a position to leave power. But you see, the unfortunate aspect is that when we have leaders stay in power for too long, that in itself is what creates what we are seeing today. Because if you stay in power for more than 10 years, for example, 15 or 20, then you start panicking with regards to the things that you keep doing. Because then you start thinking about what are the things that I have done that if I leave power, then someone will come after me. So you start thinking about staying in power for life. And that is what creates problems. Then you start either eliminating people or not being tolerant to dissent. You start using the army and the police. Then you start appointing people that are close to you. Then you start appointing family members because you're now scared of everyone. And ultimately, we should have scenarios where constitutions are followed and should not be changed for the whims of personalities. If we do that, then it will be possible for this continent to actually develop.
Alex Manyasi, we appreciate your insight on the Viewpoint this Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you a very pleasant day ahead.
Always a pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex. Now, we're coming to the end of the Viewpoint, and we appreciate you for watching this morning. In a bit, I will be handing you over to Doreen, who will be letting us know what traffic is where, what situation is where in as far as our roads are concerned. But I'd like to pick one inspiration here from Nick. Thank you so much, by the way, for watching the show. Leo miamwatu inspiration. Sindo, Sawa, you're saying that half of our sorrows we earn by expecting good things from the wrong people. And the other half we earn by detecting the wrong things in good people. All in all, have a positively motivated day. right back at you, Nick. And thank you so much for watching the show and for your support. We are closing up. As far as the viewpoint is concerned, thank you so much for watching and for your participation therein. The show, however, is not yet done. Doreen Range is coming up next with the traffic update. Afterwards, we will be having Jane Wamboi, who will be coming in with a lifestyle item of the day. My name is Samuel Njoroge. Good morning.
All right, and it's time for our second traffic link. And if you can remember, today we're just focusing on Kisumu Chamilil Muhoroni Road. I had promised again, I'll be showing you more images of how this construction process has been coming along. So this is actually also one of them. And maybe if you can just begin from here. I had told you that this specific road is one of those very, very important roads, and simply because it is a link to counties such as Nandi, Kericho there. Also, it is a link to the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport Stadium, where the president was at. That was last year in October, and he was laying a stone there for that construction of that stadium there, which is expected to end in April of this year. So part of what he noted was how poor this specific road looked like, given the fact that is, again, those important roads, because it's a link to a very to that airport stadium which is being constructed there. And he commissioned the interior CS to at least ensure that that particular route, at least, you know, I mean, this particular road, you know, can be reconstructed and make it easy for pedestrians as well as vehicles. This particular road, again, was constructed in the early 60s. And for the past 2 decades, that means for the past 20 years, it has been in a very poor state. It also branches off to different junctions. There's the Miwani Junction, there's the Mamboleo Junction. And what you're seeing right now on your screens is actually that Mamboleo Junction, which is, again, one of those branch from that specific route. So the CS Treasury commissioned that this was 11 billion, again, led last year for those roads that had been earmarked for reconstruction, and key among them was this specific one, which was awarded 4.9 billion for the reconstruction process, again, like I mentioned, to make it easy for pedestrians as well as for vehicles, both public and private. And again, also what Kenha had mentioned is that the specific road will take a period of 1 year for that process to be completed. Initially, it was to take 2.5 years, which is 30 months, but at least after, you know, the money was put out and the contractors are now being brought on board, they mentioned that it will take a period of 1 year. Also, part of what will be inclusive of this road, aside from it just to be reconstructed to make it easy for, you know, the road users there, they again also mentioned that it will be inclusive of the NMT, which is again part of an NMT, which is the pedestrian walkways as well as cyclist lanes, and also in addition to that, it will have the traffic lights as well as traffic signals. So a bit of that construction has been at least coming along, not that bad. So right now, we just want to check the traffic flow of that specific route. And again, also if you can note, most of those roads that have been earmarked either for reconstruction or, you know, there's just some ongoing road works. Part of what the different bodies designated to make our roads look better is at least to ensure that they have the traffic lights, traffic signals, and key important of them all to have the pedestrian walkways as well as the cyclist lanes. So those images in which I was showing you earlier, this is actually that map of that particular place, Keen Point. This one is around Muhoroni area, which is as you leave Kisumu, coming all the way to Muhoroni, going to the other side of that particular route. And clearly, as of now, at least it is green all through. If you can remember also, this is just how it was the first time we were looking at the traffic of this area, this Muhoroni place. And it was just, again, the same as how it is right now, green, no traffic at all. And the beauty is that this is actually on both lanes. So again, as you leave Kisumu, branching off to Muhoroni, heading all to the other side, and also again, leaving that area coming all through Kisumu, green all through, which is an indicator that there's no traffic at all, and that is how that situation looks like there. Just a bit of a traffic snarl up next to the primary school. This is again around the same route. That's why we're seeing that orange color there. So a bit of a traffic snarl up, just beginning to slightly build up, but in the same breath also a manageable kind of traffic. But also in that area, it is next to a school. So again, ultimately what we are seeing there is basically what we'd expect to see in areas where it's either around to a school, a mall, you know, a petrol station or a bus terminus. Oftentimes, at least, there will be a bit of a traffic build-up, and that is the same situation there. Away from that, still coming back to Kisumu City as you branch off to the Busia Road also, no traffic at all, green all through. This is again also one of those roads in which there was a reconstruction expanded just at the heart of Kisumu City, so clearly looking like that is serving its purpose very well, because as of now, no traffic, and this is again on both lanes. So on this specific one, when I'm saying on both lanes, it simply means as you leave the city of Kisumu, as you leave Nairobi, coming again all through Kisumu, Busia Road, and also as you leave the areas of Busia, still coming the same route, heading all the way to Nairobi, at least green all through. So ultimately, again, that route, which is the Kisumu Chemelil Muhoroni Road, is one of those roads in which we'll continue to keep tabs on, because as I mentioned, it is expected to take a span of 1 year until that construction process is complete. So that again makes it to be one of those roads in which we'll continue to look at, just see how it is coming along the construction process and how all of that is affecting the traffic flow in Kisumu City.
Get ready for a 3 weeks Africa Football Feast as the new year kicks off with the 6th edition of the Africa Nations Championship in Cameroon. From the 16th of January to the 7th of February 2021, 16 teams from the continent will be spread across 3 cities as the best players from domestic leagues showcase their talents live on KBC Channel 1. Let's support our own.
Ulichukulia kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Unajua Saturday yaandikangu hivyo.
Ni nini wewe?
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake, hizo miaka zote, mtu ajui kujua kuandika note. NOT tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli inasaidia.
Kijana, nini nakusumbua na mimi?
Nauliza ni ungwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama Angel,
don't you dare.
me.
Okay. Let the dead bury. They are dead, right?
You're running around. Hizo viatu zake zinanuka. Songea huko. Haya. Kwani ni vita? Ni nini wewe? Yaani wataka kumpiga. Huwezi mpiga, umpige nini?
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
People disapprove. I know you are jealous because Yas is better than you. Maybe it's high time you also need to look around for a suit, eh? Your jealous is becoming too loud.
Quit your unsolicited advice, but you should remember that Queen A has it all under control, or otherwise,
Dude, I think sane men should stay single for the rest of your life. Kinyanjui, what do you say?
Through my brother.
Hyena and Ngoda now flames. Wonders shall never end.
Who are you calling hyena and goat? You small person. Stay out of my life. Bara, you better start talking.
Hey, what do you mean? We were going to talk anyway.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Maanake humjui mtu katika nafsi yake atafikiriaje. Wewe ona mpoa tocha mwambie rafiki yangu. Lakini katika nafsi yake wajua anachokisikia.
Huyu yule sister Dule uko nakwambia.
Huyu mimi namjua nikashe. Huyu mtoto ana tabu. Ana shida kama jina lake lenyewe yani.
Sikia nikwambie wewe, hapa hakuna namba zako. Ukiangalia hapa kuna namba zako kweli hapa?
Mimi ni governor lawyer. You are not supposed to be here. You trespass. Tell your friend, mwambie rafiki yako apaondoke hapa mahali mkiandamana pamoja. Hapa takani mtu yote.
Welcome back. We are glad you are still with us. This is still Good Morning Kenya, and we thoroughly appreciate you for making time to be with us this far. The hashtag still remains to be Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. At KBC Channel 1 ever remains to be our official station handle, and my handles Kama K at Jane Wamboy across all the social media platforms. And speaking of socials, I'm just going through Twitter and I saw a story about a Form 3 student who faked his own kidnapping on his way to school to ransom his parents money to go shopping for new clothes. That will be one of the stories that we'll be talking about tomorrow on our trending topics segment. But for now, we want to come back to studio and have a conversation about our lifestyles item for the day. And today we have one lovely lady with us in studio this morning. There she is on your screens, Catherine Silva, Miss Africa Classic, virtual for that matter.
Yes.
Ooh, you'll be telling us how that has been so far. But in the meantime, talk to us using the hashtags that I've just given you on Twitter. At KBC Channel 1 is also the official station handle. Are you on social media?
Yes, I am.
We could start there. Give us your social handles.
It's Catherine Silva, Catherine with a K, Silva. As long as you search for that, you will see Mrs. Virtual Classic Africa.
And it's not
online.
Sylvia, because we'll be tempted to autocorrect it to Sylvia.
I was called Sylvia a lot in primary school. Yes, it's Silva, S-I-L-V-A.
Catherine with a K.
Yes.
Catherine with a K and Silva, not Sylvia. So before we get to the most recent event that happened over the weekend when you were crowned Miss Africa, Miss Virtual Africa Classic, let's go back. Let's get to know you a bit better.
Lovely.
Catherine Silva. And especially looking at this line and journey that you are in about modeling, pageantry, fashion show and all that. Where did all this interest and love stem from?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. And let's go straight into it. It stems from what you're driven to do as a person. And I've always been someone who wants to assist and help, maybe give too much advice, just jump in and always be resourceful.
Yeah.
And for some time I did struggle with that because, you know, it's not easy when you're always helping. And then I realized, you know what, if it's the gift that God has given me, it's the gift.
Why not run with it?
And so I am a mother, I am a working woman, but this is the charity thing that I do. So the pageant is about impact. And it basically started last year in February. So in February, I was advised that I am a finalist with this pageant, and it's an Africa pageant, it's a national title. And so I am a Mrs. Africa Classic, a finalist, but there was also, because a lot was done throughout the year, the virtual pageant came up to award us for what we did for the year.
Yeah.
So this came up at a time when the pandemic came up, and my thoughts were, what can I do to help? How can I impact and help our African community and our society?
Yeah.
So it also started from, with my working life, I've done a lot of coaching and mentoring, because working with younger girls and boys, supervising them, you always see so much talent and be like, wow, this one has so much talent, they're brilliant, but
I need to teach them a bit of this and that and this and that. So it started also from there. And that would go a long way with helping people find jobs, advising them on what to do at an interview, and in general in life, mentoring those that are close to you, or yes, because they end up close to you. So it all started from that. And so during the pandemic was announced. I had written a book, a children's book, and I was like, you know what, this is what I have to give. Plus, get a donation drive running where people bring what is trash to them that we can bring together, and it's a joy to others. It's a luxury for others. So it just stemmed from that. What can I do to help? And how did this particular pageantry just fit into what you have always loved doing and hoped to do along the way? What was it about that was like, I want to be part of this? Like, in as much as I started to, like, you know, win, of course, hopefully you wanted when you were coming through, you were hoping to win. But what was it about it that attracted to you to just even wanting to be part of it?
The main thing was Africa Pageants is about impact. So the pageant is about impact, and it has all sorts of categories. And it is not about your size, your height. You can see I'm not very tall. It's not about your age. It is about the African woman being beautiful in all different ways. We are all different. We are unique in ourselves. And so it is about impact. What do you want to do in the society? What are you driven to maybe fight for? So it is all about that. So within, if you're in the classic category, you have to be married. It's for those who are married. There's a category for those who have been married but are either divorced or widowed, and different ages and different sizes. So because it's yes, a pageant where there is a section to do with beauty and fashion, and there is also a huge section to do with your portfolio and impact in the community. That's what drew me to them.
All right. And looking at this particular category that you were one of the finalists, how did it go in terms of even reassuring you as a person that, you know, when it comes to issues to do with modeling, the way it's considered as such a superficial industry, you have to be a certain height, you have to have a certain physique. The fact that all that was put aside and you were made to feel like, you know what, there's an opportunity for me, and you can imagine how much other women have to struggle with when it comes to this line of business or industry that they may love. How was it for you?
For me, that's a big part of why I actually even took part, because at my age, over 40, I've had 2 children, and my last born is turning 2 end of this month. So this was like post-maternity that I'm getting into a pageant. I also wanted us ordinary women to just love ourselves for what we are. There was no time that I'm going to now join a pageant and say, oh my goodness, I need to do surgery, I need to get rid of this and that. I need to be healthy, yes, take care of myself, but it's to inspire women as well to just love yourselves as you are, because a big part of it is we compare, and that's how we end up competing, and you can't compare. Each one of us is created in their own way and has their beauty. So that's, you know, that's part of it. And I think for me growing up, I grew up in a society for my mom. She's very happy within herself. So she's not superficial, and she always says, don't use that word ugly. No one is ugly because everyone was created by God. So for me, I was very comfortable in my skin, so I really didn't have to think twice. I was just excited to glam up.
But what more do we need to do to just change this narrative that exists, in as much as we are hoping for a beautiful future, a space where you are not just limited by society because of your appearances, but there's so much more that you have to offer. But then again, the superficialness is something that people have a hard time letting go of. What more can we do to just get to that space where even the organizers of these pageants are alive to the fact that there's more to it than just beauty?
Well, for example, like this particular pageant, it's very clear when you agree and sign up what it's about. And as the pageant is ongoing, they do a lot of coaching and mentoring and teaching you about accepting yourself as you are. But I think within the society, we can teach our girls a lot. We can teach our girls to love themselves as they are. We can speak to them about, we always blame the media and social media for what is posted, but we can't stop that. So it's what we bring up our girls to feel about themselves. It's the essence we teach them, and also what we portray as ourselves as older women. Yeah, if we portray that confidence and let them know I'm happy within my skin, and also teach them it's really not only about superficial. Like I said, it's about your health, it's about the essence, what you are doing, what you're growing within yourself. These are the values we can teach our girls, and leadership as well.
From a young age.
Yes,
they grow
most
with
definitely.
them.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this pageant has been happening during a year that most people considered to be one of the worst years that we have experienced as a race. But in that time, you were also able to get on this drive, the Joy Drop.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that.
So I created a donation drive, which is basically people telling me they are clearing out, they have stuff they don't need, and then I get it picked up from them. Because most people, when you clean out, you're like, where do I take this stuff? So this stuff is collected, it's accumulated, and then divided and taken to the relevant homes. So for example, if there's a lot of baby clothes, it goes to a baby's home. This donation drive is very exciting because I've had my friends, former colleagues, a group of ladies and gentlemen come together and help me to sort, to go for the donation drives. And so it's been a real community feel, and it has supported children's homes, old people's homes, shelters for gender-based violence survivors. So that's what it is for. So we call them Joy Drops because when we go on the drop, we're bringing stuff, but you know, we're singing and coaching and mentoring, and I do a book reading and give out the books because my book is actually goes out to charity. When it's sold, those donations go to charity.
All right.
As well.
And is this something that, you know, was just happening during the pandemic, and in as much as it came at a very good time where most people were struggling with things here and there, and especially those who are less fortunate, is this something that lives beyond the pandemic, or what are the plans that you have in regards to such a drive?
It started during the pandemic, definitely because there was more need, but it will live for a lifetime because there is need. Post-pandemic, before pandemic, there will always be need in the community, and we always have things that can go to the right people. So definitely this will be for a lifetime as part of what I do.
All right. And from what you saw, just interacting with the children and the ladies and gentlemen at these different homes, what are some of those things that are essential and people really need, that you feel, in as much as you may, as maybe a viewer this morning, you want to contribute in one way or the other, but you feel this particular items or category of items are what people mostly need in some of these homes?
There's so much need, but most definitely there's the basics: blankets, mattresses, beddings, those basics. Children's homes, diapers. There are many of these babies we forget are not breastfeeding because they are orphaned. So formula, formula for the very small, milk, food items. These are the things that are really needed. There's also a lot of need of menstrual pads. There's a lot of need, apart from the material things that are needed, there's financial need. Some of these homes are paying rent. They need to pay for electricity, other utilities. And there's also need for us to be there for time, to give your time to go and speak to these children, give your time to hold the babies. Of course, right now with the pandemic, that's not happening, but the need is all rounded. But yes, there is a lot of need. And I would urge people to just give your time, or as a family, pick a Saturday and go to a place of need and just see what you can give. And if you can't give anything material, you can cook for them for the day. Yes.
And how do you go about it? Is do you just gather what you get from volunteers or donations from people? Do you go with a group of people, or you have a select group of people who you go with, or you are open to even allowing company from different people who just want to be part of the cause?
So this donation drive is often on Facebook. My page is public, so anyone can be part of the cause. So I go about it in that sense. I post and say the next donation drive is going to be here. We are accumulating items, and then anyone can join me because it's public what home we're visiting. So anyone can be part of the cause. I've even had companies, a few companies, give items as well, which so the cause is not limited to just individuals helping.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned you were able to put together a children's book. Was it also during the pandemic?
Yes.
Or before the pandemic?
So it was just before the main announcement in March. I think that's when our disaster happened in March. So this, I had just closed with it and published by February, end of February, received this, and I was thinking, oh wow, I can now do a book launch, and what shall I do? And then of course in March, we didn't know what was going on.
Why a children's book to start with?
So I started with a children's book for a few reasons. First, I wanted to teach children values that we seem to think are lost in the community, and we complain about. We always say, oh, watoto hawajui this, they don't have this value, that sort of thing. But we need to do something about it, because we can't complain. They're not learning certain values, but we need to teach them. And I thought about it because the main character is a cat, and her name is Bubbles. And I love animals, and I've had a lot of cats in my life.
You're the cat lady.
So by watching them, I felt this is a way children would identify to pick a value when they're watching a cat, then when we lecture them, so to speak. So I used animals as a character, and I thought we can teach the values to the community with a light story like this. And that's how I went about it.
All right.
Yes.
Just before we continue with this particular book about the children, we are also having a live link that will be coming up in a minute. I believe the link is actually up and running, and we just want to quickly switch on over and listen into what Oparanya has to say in regards to the National Health Workers Strike.
Of the union to undertake industrial action, which has persisted for the last 1 month despite the ongoing global pandemic and court orders. The Council considers this move to be against the right to life and the right to the highest attainable standards of health care, as guaranteed under Article 26 and 43 of the Kenya Constitution. We deeply appreciate the commitment and the selflessness of healthcare workers who are and remain at the front line in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. It is on this premise that the Council is saddened by the move by the union. The Council of Governors would like to inform members of the public that health being devolved function, county governments have been on the forefront to ensure that the interests of all workers are upheld. In 2017, the health sector experienced industrial action whereby doctors and nurses went on strike for 100 and 153 days respectively. This paralyzed the health sector, resulting to deaths of innocent Kenyans. This led to the negotiations which resulted to an increase in the salaries and allowances of the healthcare workers. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to inform members of the public that prior to devolution, healthcare workers were remunerated in the following manner. Doctors' entry level was at Job Group L, and in 2017, county government reviewed and revised the same to Job Group M at a gross salary of $234,750 per month. Certificate nurses' entry level was enhanced to Job Group G with a monthly gross salary of $71,870, up from $49,370, with uniform allowance of $10,000 per month, paid annually. A registered clinical officers with a diploma entry level of Job Group H had a gross salary of $56,130, and the counties have now revised the same to a gross salary income of $83,380 per month. Currently, the health workers are enjoying the following allowances as a result of efforts made by county governments. Doctors increase emergency call allowance from $30,000 per month to $72,000. Can you see that increase? For Job Group M, N, and P, and $80,000 for Job Group Q and above. increase risk allowance from 10,000 to 20,000 per month. Clinical officers, health service allowance of 20,000 per month for job group G to M, emergency call allowance of 10,000 per month. Other health cadre were increased to 7,500 per month for job group D to F. Nurses, nursing allowance was increased from 0 to 20,000 per month. The total cost for all this in 2017 totaled 5,254,320,090 annually. 5,254,320,090 shillings annually, and shared across all counties. We further wish to inform you that the resultants from the strike notices that were issued last year, a multi-agency conciliation committee that includes the union and the government was established by the Ministry of Labor on 3rd December 2020 to handle the grievances of the three unions. The committee is expected to give a report which will guide the way forward on these issues. As a gesture of good faith, the health workers ought to have called off the strike pending the outcome of the conciliation, being spearheaded by the Ministry of Labor. Important note also that several courts have also issued orders to suspend the strike, with the most recent one being issued in the case between County Government of Machakos versus Kenya Union of Clinical Officers and Kenya National Union of Nurses. The court also issued interim orders to suspend the strike in the case filed by the Ministry of Health versus Kenya Union of Clinical Officers and Kenya National Union of Nurses and Kenya National Health Professional Society and others. As is, the strike by the health workers is not protected in law. We further note that the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers signed a return to work formula with the Ministry of Health on 1st January 2021. The Council of Governors was not consulted prior to the execution and as such has not signed the same. Whereas we do not disagree with some of the provisions in the formula, we are aware that an increase in any allowance has a budget implication to the counties. This also requires the necessary approval by the SRC and commitment by the Treasury that they will provide these resources to the county governments. Counties shall not commit to any allowance not factored in their budget, as this will be a trigger for the future industrial unrest because they would not be able to implement. County governments wish to reiterate that any health worker who absconds from duty will be dealt with in accordance with the law. No worker should expect to walk out of their jobs and then walk back when they do so wish. The county governments are not a revolving door. We are monitoring and shall circulate the names of the employees who have been terminated on account of indiscipline in order for the workers not to be considered for subsequent employment by other counties. The Council of Governors urges the trade unions to engage the respective county governments for purposes of addressing any issues. We are, however, not opposed to a social dialogue that will help resolve the issues and put to an end to the perennial strikes by the health workers. This has negative impact on service delivery. Lastly, I would like to re-emphasize that COVID-19 is in the community and all the professions, including the police, teachers, lawyers, drivers, among other civil servants, are at risk of contracting the same in execution of their duties. Therefore, it is the unlikely event that all workers demand for a COVID allowance and increase in other allowances, the country will grind to a halt. We urge that health workers put the country first and adhere the oath of allegiance to the service. Asanteni, Mungu awabariki. That is what we had issued earlier. But I had also emphasized that we have been experiencing cash flow, and I think this is the worst year, worst financial year that since devolution, since I'm a second-term governor, that now counties are owed 89.5 billion. And you will expect us, obviously, with the 89 billion outstanding, not dispersed to counties, that we are able to carry out our functions as required by the Constitution of Kenya under Article Schedule 4. So it has been very difficult, and we still have that cash flow problem, and without this cash, even if these allowances were awarded, the process is too long. They cannot be implemented immediately because there will be budget provisions, supplementary budgets have to be undertaken, and that is not a walk in the park. It takes time to have a supplementary concluded in the county government because of the process involved. Asanteni. So, now give us time.
All right, there you have it. The Council of Governors Chair, Governor Wycliffe Oparanya, addressing the current situation in regards to our healthcare strikes, pointing out the financial, implications that have been involved since 2017, getting to where we are today, and of course, emphasizing on the fact that the agreement that was reached on between health workers and the Ministry of Health did not involve them in any way whatsoever. Of course, we'll be keeping tabs on any more developments that happen in regards to this strike. So keep it here to catch up with all our subsequent bulletins to stay up to date with all that is happening across the country, and more so in regards to this strike that our medics are on. Now, due to the constraint of time, we are going to have to put a cap on today's program right there, but we have been speaking with Catherine Silva, who is the current Miss Classic Virtual Africa 2020. And before we get to just call it a program, maybe just your closing remarks, and how our viewers can also get in touch with you on social media once more.
All right, thank you. I have an email address that's korepotential, K-O-R-E, potential @gmail.com. And I look forward to us working together and those who can help and do something to get in touch with me.
Social media, how can guys find you?
Catherine Silva.
All right.
On Facebook, as long as you search for Catherine with a K, Silva, S-I-L-V-A, you will find me.
All right, there you have it. Get to talk to her on the socials, understand how you can be part of the Joy Drop, a drive that goes on to just help the less fortunate in society. On behalf of the entire Good Morning Kenya crew, we want to wish you a lovely day. Do have a beautiful rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. Be sure to join us again tomorrow morning right here on Good Morning Kenya. My name is Jed Wambui. See you tomorrow.
Hi guys, I'm Christine Korea
and I'm Beryl Lovewell.
And you guys are about to experience an amazing collaboration.
Hi guys, so my name is Sabrina and today I am super excited because Christine and Be Luxury Hair will be working the magic on me, and I love looking good, so I'm super excited and I hope you guys are going to enjoy this as much as I will.
Hello guys, my name is Valentine. I'm here at Bee's Luxury. I am here to see Christine so that she can give me a makeover because I look like work. I need a change.
My name is Amin Premji. I'm a businessman, and my fashion interest started from the 80s. Just about the time when I was getting married. My wife was very much interested into fashion, and we opened our first boutique at Yaya Center called Zeds. And we used to bring in clothing from Thailand. And we then opened our second shop, and we got the franchise for Tinga Tinga. At that time, the clothing business was very lucrative. We then ventured into sports clothing. And I got a franchise from Italy called Lotto Sportswear. And this is where my Italian connection started. We had our first franchise of Lotto in 1990. We thought that it was a very interesting distributor. There used to be others like Reebok, Adidas and all that, but those are very traditional, straightforward clothing. But Lotto brought in colors, Lotto brought in designs, Lotto brought in a different dimension rather than the old straightforward white polos or white skirts or white shoes. They brought in colored shoes, and that's what has made this industry today be colorful because of Italian design, Italian fashion. In 1995, we got the license to open the first Forex bureau in Kenya. So I closed my clothing business and went into the Forex business. But something in us was missing, and 2 years ago my wife and me decided that we need to get back into fashion. So I called my Italian friends, and they said that instead of buying ready-made clothes and opening a boutique for ready-made clothes, why don't you consider made-to-measure and bespoke tailoring? Two years ago, that's where our Salvatore de Francisca brand started. We got connected to a tailor called Salvatore de Francisca. Salvatore is now 87, 88, but he started his tailoring business at the age of 12, learning from age 5. And as he became very good at his work, he started dressing up film stars, celebrities. Omar Sharif is one of them. Pierce Brosnan is one of them, James Bond. And later on, he went to dress up the whole Madrid football club. So it gave us a lot of confidence that we were dealing with somebody who was very knowledgeable, who was a fashion icon, and who really knew his job. The only challenge was that made-to-measure and bespoke tailoring was something new in Kenya 2 years ago. There were people coming in from Hong Kong and some people coming in from London, but it was either very expensive or the best materials were not being used. Salvatore then introduced us to Loro Piana. Now, Loro Piana is the world's best fabric manufacturer. They are based in Italy, and last year, Loro Piana was 80% bought out by the Louis Vuitton group, the LV group. So what we then embarked on was that we got the tailors from Italy who had their workshops in Sicily. We then made a deal with Loro Piana that we would be the exclusive buyers in East Africa. So we have the best tailors, we have the best fabrics. Now what we had to do was to educate the Kenyans that do not buy a ready-made suit and buy a made-to-measure bespoke suit. Bespoke clothing is something like a car being made from scratch. So you got to fabricate the whole body, you got to put the right engine parts, so everything that fits a gentleman according to his body. Then the tailor brings the garment half finished, and then he starts making the adjustment according to the gentleman's body. He then takes it back to Italy, and on the second fitting, he now makes it perfect. And if the man or the client has put on a little bit of weight, it can still be adjusted. That's called bespoke tailoring. So you need a couple of fittings before you get your properly immaculate fabricated suit. And everything is handmade. So there's no glue used, all the fibers are natural. Sometimes men will notice that when they press their coats, it becomes shiny. The reason why it becomes shiny is because they've used glue and not natural fibers. So when heat goes on top of fabric and glue underneath, the shininess comes out. That shows you that it's not a good made suit. The fabric is so delicate that only the Italian tailors who have been using it for years and years know how to stitch it. In our line of work, we need to source for people who would enjoy or who would appreciate such clothing. So this could be bankers, businessmen, politicians, anyone who has a flair for fashion and who can afford. And we have fabrics that range from 100 percent wool, all the way going to 210, going to 240% pure wool. Now, a 240% pure wool is only made from the vicuna. The vicuna is a animal from the South America, which is very rare to find because its fiber is very, very thin. And a suit of that fiber, of that fabric, would cost not less than 20,000 euros. Interestingly, there are only 20 to 24 fabrics made once a year which these suits can be made from. So accordingly, we then show the client the fabric. He then chooses the fabric. We then show him the styles, that what would you like. So once the client agrees on the style, agrees on the fabric, we then tell him what it will cost him. If he agrees, he has to pay a deposit. Then the tailor starts taking his measurements. Now that process is a half an hour procedure, so as to speak. So the tailor then puts his instrument on the body of the client. Now when I mean by instrument, that means he puts the particular style of the suit on the gentleman and then starts making the adjustments, putting the pins and all that. Once the client says, I'm happy in this sort of fit, the tailor then starts taking the measurements. There are about 27 to 30 measurements of a man that needs to be taken to measure a bespoke suit. For every suit that they make, they only have the label here of the initials. There is no label here to say Salvatore de Francisco or no, because it's made for them. You can make out by the design, number one, and normally in every blazer or trouser there is a law that a production slip. This will tell you when it was produced, made in where, what sort of fabric and everything. Bottom line is that when you walk in this store, what we have done is that we've got every other accessory to go with the suit, which is again original Italian. We now have embarked on a new collection which has just come in, and we are now working towards Valentine's. So if you know the James Bond, the Spectre collection,